Hey guys, tonight we edge our way back 3 full centuries to a cobblestone alley so narrow you can scrape both elbows at once. And in that damp passage you're about to make the worst career decision your future knees will ever regret. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, pop into the comments and tell me what city you're listening from and what unholy hour your clock is blinking at. Bonus points if you confess whether you're still in pajamas or already half dreaming. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You pick your way across the uneven stones, the smell of coal smoke lacing the drizzle. Your boots making that embarrassing slosh because no one warned you the city floods on even-numbered Tuesdays. The 1682, though honestly, the exact year is the least of your worries, and the air tastes like someone tried to brew coffee with seawater. A tavern sign overhead swings in the wind, its iron bracket shrieking like a ship's rigging. Inside, a dozen sailors gamble away wages they haven't earned yet, but your attention glues itself to a parchment tacked beside the door. Wanted, lantern trimmer, stout of back, steady of hand. Apply within. Good coin, little fuss. You, of course, believe everything you read. Tonight will cure you of that habit. A man in a cloak the color of old tea lurks near the notice. He sizes you up with the practiced disdain of someone who can't remember the last time he climbed his own ladder. Fancy coin for easy work, he murmurs, testing whether you can be hooked like a carp. Easy, you repeat in your head, as though the word needs extra underlining. You could use easy. You step closer, nose wrinkling at his aftershave, distilled juniper and something vaguely medicinal. Later you'll learn the scent is whale oil and damp wool, an occupational perfume. He pours 2 fingers of brandy into a chipped mug, slides it toward you, and begins the soft sell. The city fathers, he says, have decreed that lanterns must burn from dusk till dawn because enlightened commerce requires enlightened streets. Enlightened. That pun alone should have warned you. Municipal edicts have never met a double meaning they didn't like. You down the drink. Bad move. It's half turpentine, half optimism. And agree to meet him by the river gate at sunset. Congratulations, you're hired. At sunset you arrive to discover the term equipment issue redefined. They hand you a 6-foot wooden pole with a brass hook on one end and a wick trimmer on the other, plus a leather satchel heavy with something sloshing ominously. Oil. The quartermaster coughs, as though that clarifies everything. It's actually a blend. Whale oil if you're lucky, rancid vegetable drippings if the supply ships are late, and they're always late. You glance around for a uniform and are given a shrug. Uniforms are for people the public is meant to recognize. You're supposed to blend into the background like damp mortar. Your first assignment appears simple. Light and maintain 48 lanterns along the merchant quay. Each consists of a metal cage, a glass pane clouded by generations of soot, and a wick that sulks like a wet cat. You must climb a portable ladder, truly more splinters than lumber, hoist the oil flask overhead, fill the reservoir, trim the charred wick to a point no thicker than a matchstick, and spark it with a flint. Then you move on. Easy work, the recruiter said. Easy, you remind your shoulders as they groan under the satchel. The first lantern you tackle rewards you by refusing to open. The latch has rusted shut, probably since the last plague year. You jab it with the hook. Nothing. You curse under your breath, mindful that public profanity carries a fine nearly equal to your weekly wage. A passing fishmonger snorts, offers unsolicited advice about leverage. You pretend to know what leverage is. Finally, the latch unlocks with a screech identical to the tavern bracket, as though metal everywhere secretly attends the same choir practice. Inside, the wick is an abomination. Frayed like a mouse-chewed rope, crusted with waxy drips and harboring what might be a spider monarchy. You trim it back, drizzle oil until it almost overflows, strike the flint. Sparks shower. The wick smolders, coughs, then bursts into a reluctant orange halo. Congratulations, you have produced light. A trio of urchins cheer ironically from a doorway. Your career graduation ceremony is complete. By lantern 7, rain begins in earnest. A slanted sheet that turns cobbles into river stones. Oil slicks run down your sleeves. The brass hook feels colder than arithmetic. You consider quitting, but the quartermaster still has your signature agreeing to pay the ladder replacement fee if you abandon post. You suspect the ladder costs more than several weeks' wages, a clever bit of corporate retention centuries before anyone coined the term. So you keep going, shoulders hunched, eyes stinging. Historical side note: yes, you can both labor and learn at once. By the late 17th century, many European cities employed lantern trimmers not merely for illumination but to enforce what they called urban morality. Darkness, the aldermen argued, bred vice, and vice scared away investors. London instituted its first paid street lighting scheme in 1684. Paris, a few decades earlier, though historians still squabble over whether Amsterdam's canal lamps predate both. What no one disputes: the jobs were underpaid, dangerous, and absolutely pivotal to nighttime commerce. Back to you. Lantern 13 is perched over a drainage ditch that belches odors no lyricist could romanticize. The ladder legs wobble on slime. You grip the pole like a prayer bead. Halfway up, a rat the size of a purse scuttles across your boot, reminding you that gravity is merely opinions plus rats. Your breath comes out in comic whistles. A passing couple giggles. Public entertainment isn't taxed yet. But if it were, you'd owe them a penny. A quirky fact to lighten the load: some cities issued trimmers a pouch of dried rosemary to burn beneath each lantern after servicing it, believing the herb's smoke repelled plague vapors. Modern science scoffs, but your nose welcomes any scent that competes with sewage. You pinch a sprig, light it, and for a fleeting moment the quay smells like someone roasted a chicken in a forest. Lantern 21. Your shirt cuffs have absorbed enough oil to qualify as alternate fuel. You pause by a baker's window. Warm air fogs the glass and the aroma of nutmeg buns punches you with nostalgia you didn't know you possessed. You are, however, penniless until payday, so you lick rainwater from your upper lip and move on. Somewhere near Lantern 29, you realize the real hazard isn't fire. It's ladders. The city provides them but never maintains them. Each rung is a negotiation between your weight and decades of rot. You experiment with climbing sideways, distributing pressure, but that only makes you look like a crab impersonating a chimney sweep. Patrons of late-night commerce begin to appear. Dockworkers returning from second shift, musicians lugging lutes, an early pickpocket casing tomorrow's mark. They nod in appreciation of your light, then immediately forget you exist. That is the contract. Provide safety without presence. You wonder whether the constellations feel the same, shining for sailors who rarely offer thanks. By the time you reach Lantern 33, the oil flask is half gone and your shoulders have submitted resignation letters. You lean against a milestone stone etched with Latin no one reads anymore. Rain dribbles down your collar in cheerful disregard for anatomy. You recite multiplication tables to stay awake. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 8 is why are you doing this to yourself? A figure emerges from the gloom. A constable in polished boots, cloak lined with envy green velvet. He inspects your lantern, grunts approval, then jots something in a notebook. Quality control, he explains without looking up. You note that his lantern, a personal handheld model, has a brand new glass pane and a silver handle. He notices your glance, shrugs. Municipal privilege. You suspect the notebook is mostly blank. The inspection more about reminding you who owns the darkness. You remember a veteran's tip. Blowing gently across the wick while striking often encourages ignition by feeding oxygen at the crucial moment. You try it. Success. A small victory, but tonight small victories are the only currency accepted. Historic debate interlude. Scholars still argue whether lantern trimmers were the first municipal employees to receive formalized shift rotations. Some archives show 3 night cycles followed by a day of rest. Others insist on 5 nights on, 1 off. You're on night 1, but no one explained how many follow. That uncertainty gnaws at you more than the ladder splinters. At Lantern 45, dawn threatens. The eastern sky blushes like a teenager caught reading banned literature. Officially, lamps must stay lit until sunrise, but oil is scarce and the quartermaster rewards thrift with halfpennies. You gamble, extinguish the last 3 earlier than protocol allows, trusting the growing light. No constables in sight. The sky obliges, brightening quickly. You descend the final ladder rung, knees trembling as though the city installed hidden springs in the ground. Your shift ends back at the river gate, where the quartermaster counts flasks and records oil usage with the solemnity of a priest tallying sins. You stand dripping, muscles twanging in rebellion. He nods at your ledger, mutters something about acceptable losses, presses a wooden token into your palm, your proof you completed Route B. You'll exchange it for coin on Friday, assuming you don't drown in a gutter first. Exhaustion settles like a damp cloak, but you're also weirdly proud. You created 48 little suns and chased night back into the cracks. No one will remember your name, possibly not even the quartermaster, but for one rainy stretch of cobblestone, you outshone the stars. As you limp toward whatever hovel passes for home, warehouse roosters crow, unaware they're anachronistic. The city won't legalize chicken coops inside walls for another decade. You laugh softly, then wince as laughter jostles bruised ribs. The latter apparently extracted a toll you didn't notice at the time. A street vendor setting up barrels of salted fish calls, "Oi, lamplighter, sun beat you to it." You raise a gloved hand in acknowledgement, too tired to craft a snappy comeback. Besides, he's right. Sunlight always wins the race you spend all night running. Still, delay counts. That's the unspoken thesis of your new profession. Prevent darkness for a few hours, reduce crime for a few hours, make commerce possible for a few hours. String enough of those hours together and you get what the magistrates call civilization. You suspect civilization smells slightly of whale oil and singed hair, but you'll take it. You reach your door, fumble the latch. Inside, the room is dim, one narrow window blocked by laundry you forgot to rinse. You consider lighting a personal candle but reject the idea. One more flame might push your nerves over the edge. You kick off soaked boots, flop onto straw mattress, and let the city hum lull you. Somewhere a distant lantern pops as glass contracts in cool dawn air. You smile, irrationally satisfied, and murmur a vow to buy better gloves with your first pay. Before sleep claims you, a final thought drifts. "Easy work," he said. You chuckle. Never trust a man whose perfume can power a lamp. Your eyelids snap open to a chorus of complaining joints, and for 3 sweet seconds you forget why you feel like you slept inside a barrel of hammers. Then memory returns. 48 lanterns, 48 ladders, 48 miniature suns. Whale oil fumes still cling to your shirt. Welcome back to gainful employment. Boot search first. One lies under the cot. The other has mysteriously climbed the windowsill and filled itself with last night's rain. Squish step, squish step. Outside, the quay smells of fish guts, fresh tobacco, and distant tanneries. Ideal perfume for studying the tools of your trade. The depot hides between a chandlery hawking dubious candles and a cooper whose every hammer blow rattles your teeth. Inside, racks of gear fill the gloom. Poles, snuffers, flasks, shears, scrapers, ladders stacked like felled giants. Quartermaster Rocks waves you over with the enthusiasm of wet parchment. A ledger already bears your smeared signature under equipment allotment. It might as well read Abandon Hope. He begins the tour. First, the pole, 6 feet of ash capped with brass threads that host interchangeable fittings. The balance point refuses to cooperate, ensuring a lifetime of shoulder ache and accidental jousting. Next, the snuffer, a hinged brass bell. Rocks demonstrates by smothering a candle. A hiss, a puff of smoke, darkness. He claims the device prevents blowback fires, and reminds you to oil the hinge nightly. Historians still argue whether this design descended from church censors or blacksmith tongs. Either origin, no mayor wants exploding lamp posts. Then the oil flask, a squat leather bladder corked tighter than a miser's purse. Rocks lets you sniff. The aroma is low tide plus burnt almonds, pure whale oil. Mainstream fact: until kerosene gate crashed in the 1850s, whale oil lit most Atlantic ports. Nantucket merchants grew so rich on it that one jokingly offered to pave streets with ambergris. Alternative fuels? Rapeseed, linseed, fish gutter drippings. Each has notes on smoke density, winter viscosity, and likelihood of attracting cats. Rocks hands you a sample vial of rapeseed oil for blockades. Global politics fit neatly in your satchel. Wick shears come next. Garden clippers shrunk for surgery. Proper trim, Rock's lectures, means a 7 mm taper, apex toward the draft hole. Too long and soot chokes the glass. Too short and the flame shrivels. You practice. Black flakes snow your cuffs. Cleanliness, he says, is the cheapest form of light. Spoken by a man whose coat could fertilize a field. Door slams. Mere Win, lanky veteran, enters with a 12-foot ladder patched with iron straps and optimism. Ladders weigh less than regret but more than sense. Spit on the hinge, curse in Flemish, kick. Otherwise it jams. Empirical knowledge never reaches manuals. He props the ladder so you can study grooves where nails were clawed out and replaced. Quirky trivia. Some German towns held contests to climb the tallest freestanding ladder while balancing a full oil can on one's head. Prize was beer, usually followed by sprains. Rocks coughs and presents a square of linen. The glass wipe, flax and goat hair, abrasive yet merciful. Some trimmers use crumpled bread, others vinegar-soaked nettles. You pocket the cloth. A barrel marked soot scrapers offers thin rods with triangular blades. Twice a month every lantern interior must be scraped. The task is so filthy rats refuse the duty. Scholars debate whether standardized scraper length shows guild coordination or simple copycatting. Training shifts outdoors for balance drills. Empty flask stands in for full weight. You climb stationary ladders, hips pivot, wrist pours imaginary oil. Nearly topple twice. Mere Win catches you grinning. He rattles off statistics. 7 miles walked per shift, 15 building stories climbed, 12 stone of gear lifted. No wonder lamplighter pensions promise complimentary doctors, though no one's collected. Back inside, Rock's lectures on the flint striker. Steel wheel, shard of flint, 30-degree swipe. Sparks fall like comets. Cheap flint shatters, embedding splinters in knuckles. Gloves recommended but rarely issued. History sidebar. By 1700 several French towns flirted with phosphorus-tipped tapers called allumettes. They lit instantly but cost triple, bankrupting Lyon's Lighting Bureau in 1722. Unless, as some academics insist, embezzlement did the trick. Debate flickers on. Next lesson. Rope knots. Brewer's blessing. Bishop's confusion. Supposedly thief-proof. You fail twice before discovering each relies on twisting against the rope's lay. Last indoor stop. The shard kit. Replacement glass panes slot into frames, held by copper clips thinner than a flea's shin. Your fingers cramp imagining midnight repairs. A wagon unloads barrels labeled sperm. No one giggles. Spermaceti burns brighter and cleaner. You offer to help roll them. A stevedore laughs. Come back when you've eaten more than soup. Strength training suggestion noted. Before lunch you meet the calibration board, a pegboard marking perfect wick heights. Miss the hole and you earn a red X plus Rox's best sigh. Some historians cite this as municipal quality control's birth. Others say cathedral bell foundries were stricter centuries earlier. You just want check marks. Lunch arrives as broth of cabbage cores and anonymous fish. While sipping, Mere Win teaches the double sling. Ladder on left shoulder, pole across back, flask high on right hip. Geometry loads your spine like a crossbow but frees your hands mid-ladder. A miracle during wind gusts. Another barrel. Spare gaskets. Tiny leather rings keep oil from dribbling down poles. Lose one and your gloves smell like low tide. Quirky fact. Thrifty trimmers cut gaskets from old shoe soles. Some swear the foot sweat perfume keeps mosquitoes away. Science remains skeptical. Mosquitoes remain hungry. Moon phase gets inked on tonight's route card. Near full moons reduce oil budgets. New moons demand extra flasks. City treasurers brag about these astronomical savings. Historians still bicker whether this marked astronomy's first public finance cameo or penny-pinching masquerading as science. While sparks fly from Betch's grinder, she shaves your shears tips in exchange for coffee beans. Oswin unveils a dual-flame wick promising 20% brighter light with 10% less oil. None of this is official, all of it is tempting. You survive a first aid crash course, goose grease burn salve, umbrella rib splints, Sandbag hairfire protocol. Wisdom delivered with jokes about learning by scorching. You vow to keep hair damp. Weight test time. Standing on a fish basket scale with full gear, you squeak under the 1.5 times body weight hazard line. Mostly because your rain-soaked boot drips away a few ounces. Dusk drapes rooftops. You shoulder pole, hook ladder. Feel satchel tug your spine. The slosh of oil syncs with heartbeat. First lamp at wine cellar's junction. Ladder set. Snuffer hiss. Trim. Pour. Spark. Wipe. Cloth turns battleship gray immediately. Routine nailed, you descend smelling of progress. Spice alley aromas mask pole odor. There you deploy the hook fitting. Twist and lift. Door yawns like a polite crocodile. Inside, wick swims in stale oil. You siphon excess with linen, recalling Betch's warning. Overfuel burns lazy as tax collectors. Scholar's row boasts a test lantern with amber glass. You jot notes. Softer glow, unmoved moths, impressed courting couple. Potential success for municipal romance. Mid-route fatigue arrives like wet wool. A pinch of ground coffee between gum and cheek revives you. Hydration from rain barrel spouts staves off flint misfires. Mere wind swears a pinch of salt Dieter's leeches. Unverified, comforting. On stonemason bridge gusts threaten to roll your ladder. Rope knotted bishop's confusion anchors you. Light ripples gold across black water, helping fishermen untangle nets. Civic outreach unlocked. Intellectual interlude. Criminologists claim brighter bridges mean fewer drownings disguised as accidents. Skeptics say duels simply migrate upriver. Records stay inconclusive, giving scholars endless candlelight. Cold knowledge nugget. A 1699 Amsterdam decree finds citizens who spat whale oil residue onto cobbles because it made streets slick. Repeat offenders funded extra lamp flasks. Attacks on slippery contempt. Approaching Old Market Square, you face the ceremonial lantern needing 2 flasks. Wind lashes ladder. Arms quiver but prevail. You finish with a shaky bow to Duke Whatever's statue. Satchel lighter, gate adjusts. Tools clink new harmonies. Scholars still debate whether lamplighters reduced crime or merely redistributed it. Truth probably flickers between. Glass pane cracks at lamp 38. You slot replacement, secure copper clip, sweep shards. A drunk murmurs, stars fell. You nod, why spoil poetry? Snuffer hinge sticks, you forgot hinge oil. Quick dab from flask rim, crisis solved. Maintenance or mutiny? Lesson engraved. Night log strapped to forearm collects data. Frayed wicks, hostile geese, chamber pot assaults. Future bureaucrats may mine it. You just narrate the goose's bad attitude. Crossing Candlemaker's Court, you use the ladder as lever to free a jammed cartwheel. In gratitude, apprentice Helene gifts 2 lavender candles you'll melt for pole grease. Practical romance. Chapel steps breather. Inventory blisters while noting that leeches are still medicine's best answer. Occupational donors, that's you. Curfew guards brandish depot lanterns, thank you. Then blame you for cracked glass near the mint. Provider and scapegoat in one package. Harvest pageant troupe rehearses by fountains. Festival routes demand triple brightness tomorrow. You'll need extra flasks and maybe Oswin's mirrored backing trick. Historians can't agree whether festival lanterns birthed adjustable wick holders or borrowed them from ships. Necessity and ambition share equal flames. Stray dogs trail you through Butcher's Row, drawn to oil-soaked straps. You toss them crusts. They lounge beneath fresh-lit lamps like furry critics. Dawn brushes chimney tops when you snuff the final flame. Regulations say lamps burn until true sunrise, but you shave 3 minutes to conserve oil. Almanac auditors will never know. Depot scents of brazier smoke and drying linen greet you. Rocks weighs flasks. Flicks snuffer hinge. Studies your sharpened shears. Betch's handiwork. He notes in cramped script. Custom modification. Monitor edge retention. Bureaucrat for break it, you buy it. Clerk stamps survival bonus, a single copper bean. Meerwin pockets his with a bow. You stash yours beside yesterday's broken flint wheel and dream of rabbit fur gloves. Homeward, muscles hum phantom ladder rungs. Tools arrayed on the floor catch first sunlight, brass glinting like modest crowns. You realize each piece now bears your fingerprints etched into metal, a quiet contract between human and object. Night deepens, lanterns hiss and purr, and you march until stars pale. Tools, once strangers, now feel like familiar verbs. Snuff, trim, pour, spark, wipe. Sentences you write across the city in light. Sleep rises, carrying ladder rungs and brass bells into dreamscape, where tools hum lullabies and even the snuffer sings you goodnight. Wind skates down the alley hard enough to make the shutters chatter like gossiping teeth. And you, heroic bearer of a ladder older than prophecy, step out for your first official night on the cobblestones. No training wheels, no veteran shadowing your route, just you. 48 unlit lanterns, and a sky wrinkled with storm clouds that look suspiciously underpaid for the drama they're about to deliver. The satchel bangs your hip with every stride, reminding you that whale oil is heavier than despair, though arguably more useful if you run out of candles. You cross Brewer's Bridge at dusk. The river below is bloated, glug-glugging like it drank too fast and now regrets everything. Your boots slip on mossy stone. First lesson in voice-free. Never trust a bridge that doubles as its own aquarium. A baker packing up leftovers offers you a consoling nod and a misshapen walnut roll. You decline. Walnut pieces wedge between molars and demand dental attention. A service the Guild health plan addresses with the two-word advice, eat softer. Lamp number 1 squats beside a downspout that gargles runoff straight onto your laces. You angle the ladder, test both legs against the slick, then start the ascent. Halfway up, wind shoulders you sideways. You cling with knees, sling an arm around a rung, and at that exact moment a trio of students trots past, capes snapping, laughing something about gravity experiments. They don't look up. Scholarship rarely includes lamplighter awareness seminars, and you realize invisibility is both job perk and occupational hazard. You snuff, trim, pour, spark, wipe. The flame blooms with theatrical timing, crackling like it hired its own sound effects crew. Cobblestones glisten honey gold. You descend, feeling like Prometheus with less liver trauma. Mainstream fact interlude. By 1690 London alone boasted over 2,000 lanterns, each mandated to burn from sunset to sunrise save for the 3 nights surrounding a full moon. City councillors claimed crime dropped by a fifth after installation, though modern criminologists counter that pickpockets merely diversified into daylight markets. Historians still quarrel over the ledgers. Were those numbers bookkeeping optimism, or did light genuinely disinfect the darker urges? Your fingertips vote in favor of illumination, mostly because fear hates a spotlight. Lamp 4 presents its own thesis on the unpredictability of metal fatigue. You're trimming wick when the hinge pin shears off with a ping straight into the dark. Door swings wide. Glass panel screeches. You lunge, catch it with your forearm, and absorb a smear of soot that will later make barmaids wonder if you moonlight as a chimney. Using spare wire from the satchel, you bodge a repair that looks like modern art's rough draft. When the flame stabilizes, a passing seamstress applauds politely, then asks if you repair corset stays. You decline, citing union jurisdiction. Rain commences as if it's been holding a grudge all afternoon. Lantern 7 stands at Tanner's Arch, where runoff mingles with leather wash, producing a scent reminiscent of wet dog wearing new shoes. You climb. Water drizzles through the glass panes, hissing on the fledgling flame. Overfilling might drown the wick. Underfilling invites sputter death. You compromise. Flame steadies. A dog howls appreciation, or maybe complaint about wet footwear. Cold case curiosity. Some port towns issued their lamplighters tiny brass whistles to scare dogs, drunkards, and prospective muggers. Utrecht archives list one whistle tagged wolf deterrent. Though wolves were already folklore by issuance date, perhaps bureaucracy simply hated silence. Lamp 10 perches near the city jail, where prisoners press faces to barred windows for a glimpse of brightness. One shouts, "Any chance you'll drop that oil, mate? We could toast rat." You grim smile, shake satchel, produce hollow slosh. "Too dear," you answer, and receive a chorus of theatrical groans. Justice may be blind, but apparently it's peckish. The ladder, soaked through, becomes a proper slipway. You rub beeswax along both rails, a trick Mirwin swore by, though he admitted it also increases speed if you fall. Cost-benefit seesaw aside, it's better than hugging rotten wood that squeaks like mice composing hymns. Lamp 15 sits directly outside Madame Elodie's house of unambiguous commerce, where red shutters glow through violet curtains. Two of Elodie's employees lean on a doorframe, fanning themselves despite the chill. "Need a hand up that ladder, love?" one calls. You grin, decline, and ascend. While pouring oil, you overhear pricing negotiations below, numbers dizzying enough to wonder if you joined the wrong profession. Still, a lamplighter's pride is stubborn. You finish, spark, and descend amid polite applause. One woman tosses you a sugared almond. Fringe benefit logged. Side fact, 18th century Paris brothels paid lamp taxes higher than churches, arguing they saved more souls by night. City records confirm they financed an entire district's lighting for a decade. Historians still debate whether moral panic or revenue appetite drove the policy. But either way, the streets got brighter. Lamp 17 exposes the rat problem in capitals. You plant ladder, step onto third rung, and something furry scuttles over your boot. You freeze. Rat turns beady eyes skyward, perhaps mesmerized by your wobbling silhouette. Another emerges. You consider brandishing the pole like a pike. Instead, you drop a heel, thump the cobbles. Rats scatter, except one robust general who remains, whiskers twitching judgmentally. He finally retires under a barrel, leaving you 1-0 in the evening scoreboard. Still, you wish for those mythical lamplighter whistles. Ahead, Old Orchard Lane claims the city's worst potholes. Lanterns stand mid-block, requiring acrobatics to stabilize the ladder on uneven stones. You improvise. Wedge 1 foot of ladder into a rut, counterbalance with your own weight leaning left. The climb mimics a sailboat listing in heavy seas. You trim, spark, wipe. Flame flickers, then steadies. Behind you a cart laden with cider barrels lurches. A barrel thuds loose, rolls downhill, smashes into a lamppost you haven't serviced yet, splitting the glass pane like a crusty pie. Cider fizzes across paving stones. The driver curses in dialects you've never catalogued. You fetch spare glass from satchel number 2, carried for precisely such fiascos, unscrew copper clips, slide a new pane, wreck-lip while dodging cider splash. Quartermaster Rocks will demand a report. You mentally rehearse passive phrasing. Pane replaced due to force majeure involving rogue barrel. Accurate, if not strictly exculpatory. Storm gutters now gush thigh-deep rivers along curbs. You hoist ladder overhead, wade upstream like a salmon with office supplies. A barge captain, moored by the wharf, toasts your perseverance with whatever occupies his tin mug. Smells of cloves and regrets. He invites you aboard to light his deck lanterns for a penny apiece. Side hustles tempt, but guild rules forbid private contracts mid-shift. You decline, reminding yourself that rules keep wages barely predictable, if not generous. Half-hour later, wind shifts to a raw northeasterly that sneaks behind your collar. Lamp 23's glass is fogged from inside by breathy condensation. Visibility nil. You must open the door blind, trusting fingertip memory. One slip and you could douse the flame or scald your hand. Success after 4 tries. A pedestrian claps. Turns out to be the constable from last night, still notebook armed, still velvet lined. He inspects your work, scribbles only adequate. You resist impulse to ask how many ladders he's climbed this year. Mainstream data drop. Venice experimented with floating lanterns, oil lamps mounted on barges that drifted the Grand Canal. The scheme ended when revelers stole them during Carnival, repurposing them as portable party torches. Cost overruns sank the idea literally if you count 2 barges capsizing. Archivists bicker whether the fiasco accelerated terrestrial lamp adoption or merely proved Venetians couldn't resist nautical decor. Back in your city, lightning forks across the sky. You halt, count seconds 1, 2, 3, before thunder booms. Good. Strikes distant. Bad. Rain doubles volume like sheet metal hail. Ladder rungs become slip and slides. At lamp 29, while unscrewing the fill cap, your finger grazes the iron frame and receives a nip of static. Nothing lethal, just Mother Nature's reminder that iron is a poor umbrella. Crowd dynamic shifts. Gamblers scuttle indoors, sailors tie extra knots, beggars retreat to archways. You remain, a silhouette atop wooden stilts, coaxing fragile fire against cosmic waterworks. That defiance kindles surprise pride, your own modest Icarus who knows precisely how close is safe. Lamp 32 outside Royal Mint draws thieves like moths to gossip. Two shadowy figures lurk, scanning doorways. Lantern currently dead. You weigh options. Skip to avoid attention, or light to deny them darkness. Civic duty wins, you plant ladder. Figures fade into alley as you ascend. Oil poured, wick trimmed, flame sprung, glass wiped. Down below, a coin clinks. One of them politely left a copper. Maybe they're pickpockets with aesthetic standards. Lamp 35 and your shoulders throb. You recite limericks to distract muscles. There once was a lamplighter bold, but scansion breaks under fatigue, so you switch to counting breaths. A grin creeps in when you recall a quirky claim. Some guilds distributed onion slices as anti-fatigue lozenges. You have no onion, but imagination smells enough to trigger tears. Ahead, a wine merchant's warehouse sports twin lanterns with ornate scrollwork grids. Decorative edges catch sleeves. You wrestle angles to fit the snuffer bell. A gust hits. Ladder skews. You ride it like a pendulum. Heart leaps into throat, but boots maintain purchase. Flame lit. You back down. Pulse drumming against ribs like hailstones on shingles. Rain finally eases to sullen drizzle. Streets steam. Lanterns cast halos through vapor, each post becoming its own modest moon. You pause at Fountain Square to watch water hiss where droplets meet lantern crowns. A child. Should be Abed darts through shadows, marveling at reflections. She exclaims, "They look like gold flowers." You ruffle her cap, secretly agreeing art should hire you as consultant. Scientific gossip. Early 1700s lensmakers tested convex glass in lantern doors, boosting light range but also magnifying heat. One trial scorched an alderman's wig during unveiling ceremony. Skeptics laughed. Proponents argued hair loss proved efficacy. Historians call it the follicle incident, and remain split over whether it slowed innovation or merely singed vanity. Lantern 40 approaches, and storm clouds finally scuttle off. Stars emerge shyly. You blow white vapor into crisp air. A lute player sets up by bakery corner, tuning strings. Your fresh-lit lamp becomes his spotlight. He nods gratitude and strums a court dance melody. For one moment you're not just banishing dark, you're underwriting culture. Lamp 43 reveals sabotage. Wick missing entirely, plucked clean. Likely a ragpicker repurposed it for candle stubs. You locate spare wick coil, thread new length through holder trim to taper. While working, you ponder economics. Each yard of wick costs half a loaf. Desperation steals illumination. City councils debate fines versus subsidies. Consensus flickers like, well, past midnight, belly growls orchestral. You fish out emergency rye crust from pocket, discover it's soaked into paste. Nearby tavern chimney wafts roasted turnip aroma. You vow to trade tomorrow's copper bonus for real supper. For now, hunger must be fed by satisfaction of lamps burning bright. Lamp 46, the penultimate challenge, stands by cemetery wall. Bats circle overhead, chasing moths dazzled by the antennas of yellow light. Superstition whispers that trimming cemetery lamps invites ghostly audit, but overtime waits for no spirit. You snuff, pour, light, wipe, and mutter. Invoice for services rendered. To the tombstones. No one objects. Final lamp at South Gate perches atop a granite plinth etched with Latin warnings. You set ladder, feel satchel's final gurgle, just enough oil. Ascent numbs thighs. Arms tingle with lactic protest. You trim stubby wick to perfect spear tip, pour precise measure, strike flint. Sparks dance, flame blossoms, gate arch glows warm. Job done. Now, perform the ritual of route completion. Snuffer secured, wick shears stowed, ladder balanced on shoulder, empty flask corked. You pivot for depot. Streets shine like damp parchment splashed with gold ink. Each lamp your signature. Pride muscles aside fatigue. On the walk back you pass a clockmaker adjusting his window display. He eyes your soot-striped face, offers a handkerchief. City's heart ticking easier thanks to you, he says. Compliment lodges under ribs, glows brighter than lanterns. At depot's iron doors you log glass pane replacement, cider incident, missing wick, ladder gust nearfall. Rox peruses, circles force majeure and raises eyebrow. Barrels again? Apparently not the first rogue roll. He stamps incidental and files without more fuss. A small mercy. Token of completion clinks into your palm. This 1 copper, plus halfpenny hazard allowance bagged due to lightning proximity. Wealth, comparatively. You emerge into pre-dawn haze. Birds script tentative notes overhead. Light you planted hours earlier still burns, mingling with pearl-gray horizon. For all the city's noise and stink, dawn makes it look briefly baptized. Home is still 4 blocks distant, but step feels lighter. Ladder ache persists, yet each muscle fiber thrums with the knowledge that darkness lost another round. Across rooftops, smoke columns curl. Bakers stoke ovens, commerce stretches. None of it possible without night's quiet custodians, though they rarely feature in guild paintings. You reach your door, stow ladder against wall, shake water from cloak. Before collapse, you glance out narrow window at one stubborn lamp visible from your garret. Flame sleeps steady within glass. You raise imaginary toast of walnut roll crumbs and whisper, "Hold fast till I wake." Inside, straw mattress embraces like a question answered. Whale oil phantom smell rises but you're too weary to care. Rain taps lullaby on shingles. In that liminal border before sleep you catalog tonight's learnings. Cider barrels defy physics, corset makers appreciate ladder tricks, lightning respects distance markers, and no matter how many lamps you light, morning will quietly switch them all off without thanks. You fall into dreams of glass panes that grow wings, ladders sprouting roots, and rats awarding medals for exceptional courage in thwarting barrels. Somewhere, far past consciousness, the city drifts into daylight on the raft of your night-long labor. Mid-afternoon sunlight knifes through the garret shutters, carving bright stripes across your pillow and reminding you that sleep debt charges compound interest. You roll onto an elbow, testing whether your shoulders still function after last night's ladder ballet. They do, barely, so you sit up and immediately regret exposing skin to cold air that smells of damp linen and singed whale oil. A note weighted by a pebble waits on the sill. Depot meeting, compulsory, dress smart. Dress smart? You own 2 outfits. The clothes currently marinating on a peg and a mended doublet the color of philosophical despair. Clearly the quartermaster has a creative definition of smart. Down 3 flights of stairs and across the courtyard, you reach the depot where Rox has deployed tables piled with garments that once belonged to people who could afford sleeve ruffles. Uniform Enhancement Initiative, he announces, nose tilted like a flawed compass. Civic pride demands you look less like walking chimney sweeps. You refrain from pointing out that his own coat could host a rookery. He orders everyone to choose something flamboyant yet flame-respectful. The oxymoron hangs in the air like stale perfume. You rummage through lace cuffs, brocade waistcoats, and hat plumes that resemble uprooted shrubbery. The lace, starched to stand proud, crackles under your fingers. A fellow trimmer named Sibbo whispers, "Those cuffs will barbecue you first breeze you catch." He demonstrates by waving a cuff near a lantern's test flame. The lace browns faster than bread toast. Rox barks a warning about inventory damage, but evidence is undeniable. Delicacy plus fire equals flambéed fashion victim. Mainstream fact here. In the late Baroque age, starch for lace and ruffs often contained powdered alum and wheat flour, making fabric both stiff and wickedly combustible. Municipal archives list dozens of lace fire mishaps, though the tallies diverge wildly because record keepers preferred euphemisms like wardrobe tragedy. You settle on a waistcoat of midnight blue damask, minus explosive ruffles, and a modest tricorn with only 1 bedraggled feather left. Sibbo elects burgundy velvet with cuffs trimmed in something that might once have been ermine. Someone jokes he'll scare rats splotchy. Rox hands out silvered buttons engraved with a lantern emblem. Nice touch, and insists each lamplighter sew them onto breast pockets before sundown. That gives you 4 hours to locate needle, thread, and latent tailoring skills. Needle acquired from Betch the grinder, thread scavenged from sale canvas offcuts. You squat on an overturned oil barrel stitching buttons with a loop that looks more nautical knot than clothing seam. Mid-jab, Mirwin approaches with 2 cups of boiled chicory pretending to be coffee. He nods at your half-attached button. Remember, tighter stitches, fewer embers. Good advice. You tighten. Fabric pinches finger. You bleed a dot. Nothing dramatic, no gore, but enough to coax a new appreciation for tailors. With uniforms prepped, Rox outlines tonight's complication. A masquerade ball at the Guildhall. Dignitaries in lace, feathers, and towering powdered wigs will flood the West End. Our lanterns must be spotless. Our attire must not embarrass the municipality. Translation. You'll light streets full of walking tinderboxes while wearing slightly less flammable tinder. Delightful. You catch an early supper, pea soup with anonymous ham, then nap an hour to bank strength. Twilight summons you to the quay, where the river glints like spilled pewter. New waistcoat fits snug. Feather and hat tickles left ear. The air tastes of impending rain, but sky keeps its poker face. First lamp on your route stands outside Floriano's perfumery. Window displays amber vials of rose attar and citrus essence, both high in alcohol. A customer emerges wearing so much cologne the air around him could pass for a small tavern fire. You climb ladder, mindful of a gust that might push perfume-laden air toward flame. Wick trimmed, oil poured. You strike flint. Humph! A brief blue flare halos the lantern mouth, harmless but attention-grabbing. The perfumed patron ambles off. Unaware, he nearly turned himself into flambe aux agrumes. Cold pocket trivia. Some perfumers of 1700s Vienna reportedly added a pinch of gunpowder to fragrances to create a warm sensation on winter skin. City council banned it after 2 singed mustaches. 3 blocks on, you encounter the first ball attendees. Ladies in silk panniers so wide they need personal orbit clearance. Gentlemen in brocade coats bristling with silk knots called aiguillettes. Your lantern glows against their jewels, but you notice cuffs hovering frighteningly close to open carriage torches. You remember reading that, by 1720, London surgeons treated sleeve burn, often enough to nickname it fashioner's folly. Tonight you see why. You reach Lacemaker's Row. Here the irony blooms. Bolts of fresh lace hang from shop awnings, fluttering above lanterns like sacrificial ribbons. A merchant offers to sell you leftover scraps as finishing touches for your waistcoat. You politely decline, explaining you already risk spontaneous combustion. The merchant laughs, then shows you a Dutch patent for fire-retardant lace soaked in alum solution. Scholars still dispute whether this was proto-science or marketing. The samples vanished in a warehouse blaze that also consumed the inventor's notes. Near-perfect scholarly stalemate. By lamp 9, drizzle sets in, lending relief. Damp lace equals slower burn. Less romantic for partygoers, but safer for public health. You wipe condensation from glass, noticing new silver button glints in reflection. Nice. While descending, you overhear 2 masked revelers argue about whether to dance the gavotte or latest English country step. Their powdered wigs puff clouds with each shrug. Historical fact drop. That powder often comprised finely ground wheat starch blended with orris root for scent. Highly flammable and prone to bursting into sparks near candles. One London diarist recorded 3 wig fires during a single 1716 assembly. The diarist's moral? Pick smaller hair or bigger ballroom. Rain halts. You round a corner and nearly collide with a lamppost. Why? Because a hoop skirt wider than a fishing smack blocks half the street. Its owner, disguised as Persephone judging by floral garlands, apologizes. You gauge clearance, then ask if she realizes the lantern above can roast her hem should she spin too exuberantly. She laughs, tapping your shoulder with fan. Sir, the risk sweetens the thrill. You nod, mentally composing a fire safety pamphlet titled Thrill Light, Heat Less. Mid-route, you stop by the silversmith who cleans lantern reflectors. He offers a demo of the new hammered mirror insert that doubles brightness. Testing it, you nearly blind yourself. Spectacular, but now the flame radiates heat you can feel down the ladder. You log note, Mirror increases lux, also increases lace peril. Yet the treasury will adore lower oil invoices. They might ignore scorch reports. Tunes drift from Guildhall. Harpsichord, oboe, violin weaving dance sets. Lights, there are triple-wick candelabras mounted on balcony rails. You watch footmen perch dangerously, replacing burned tapers. Envy moment. At least your flames stay in cages. An errant breeze flips a lady's ostrich feather fan across a candelabra. Feather tip smolders. Quick-thinking page dampens it with wine spritzer. Crowd applauds, mistaking near disaster for party stunt. You note that rebranding accidents as entertainment seems a reliable aristocratic talent. Lamp 17 sits under an awning trimmed with crimson silk banners. While you're trimming wick, a fashion apprentice scurries close holding swatches of silk near the light to judge color in true flame tone. You warn her to keep distance. She insists lampfire is purer than window daylight polluted by grime. She proves right. Silk shows richer carmine, but edges fray dangerously close to spark. You compromise. Prop a hand mirror to bounce light onto fabric. She says you think like an artist. You reply that you mostly think like someone fond of intact eyebrows. Onward to Milk Square. A fiddler plays under your last night lamp, hat brimming with coins. He thanks you. Brighter light draws bigger crowds. Tonight, though, the square hosts masqueraders swirling capes in mock sword fights. One costume features sleeves trailing ribbon streamers, a comet orbiting candles. You intervene politely, citing Municipal Code D-112. No streamer within 2 handspans of open flame. The reveler salutes you with wooden rapier and ties ribbons in a knot behind. Crisis downgraded from inferno to mild hazard. Near Apothecary Corner you overhear a debate. Does powdered sapphire dust, used in wig powder for sparkle, increase flammability? A journeyman claims yes. A barber denies it, citing secret oil binder that locks powder down. You mentally add to list of topics scholars haven't settled. Later bibliophiles will argue through entire journal volumes without consensus. Tonight, you decide the safe answer is all sparkle is suspect. Lamp 25 stands sentinel at the marble steps leading into Guildhall. Footmen hustle guests out of carriages, and you see trouble brewing. Ladies' skirts sweeping gutter water toward lantern base. Water isn't issue. Gutter carries oil drips from earlier marinade of fishgut carts. Flammable film floats. One struck flint from footman's lantern could ignite walkway like a bad magic trick. You borrow bucket from fishmonger, splash steps, then sprinkle coarse sand. Footman raises eyebrow, you simply tap silver button, authority by embellishment, and he lets you work. Crisis averted before it learns to crow. Inside Guildhall. Peek aloud thanks to your button. You glimpse Baroque elegance. Chandeliers of beeswax candles mirrored by polished gilt panels. Gowns shimmering like beetle wings. Powdered hair taller than moderate clerics. The smell. Beeswax plus adder plus human humidity equals baked plum pudding. But you notice glass foot lanterns along wainscot burning too low. Wick chars curling. Entropy, your old foe. You long to stride in with shears and snuffer. But rulebook keeps you outside. Imagine studying flaws on a tapestry you can't reach. Back to street, where chill sets doors rattling. You replace a cracked glass pane at lamp 30 with alum-toughened sample from the depot's new order. Vendor claims it resists thermal shock. Only tomorrow's storm can confirm. For now, you relish panel clarity. Flame shines bright as polished coin, perfect for catching jewel thieves' glints. Drizzle returns, soft enough to pattern your hat feather like a bedraggled quill. You keep pace. Guests still arriving, though some already stagger out searching for night air. One gentleman's wig droops, powder forming paste that trickles down collar. You guide him toward fountain, preventing his leaning disastrously near lantern. He mutters thanks, pressing silver token into your palm, engraved with crest of local silk guild. Souvenir or bribe. Either way, you pocket it carefully. Tokens melt poorly near fire. Around 2 in the morning the ball thins. Coaches roll away. You breathe easier. Yet lantern duty remains until dawn. You patrol back along route, checking wick heights. Here you spot singe marks on silk banner where ember hopped from torch. You snuff smoldering edge with damp cloth, cursing quietly at near miss. Scholar in training Sibbo arrives to relieve you on alternate block. His burgundy velvet now sports holes the size of tuppence coins. Pass too close to torch juggler, he shrugs. Lesson underlined with smell of burnt hair. Conversation drifts to policy. Sibbo says rumor at tavern claims the city might soon require lampposts be outfitted with decorative glass chimneys extending flame above reach of gowns. You counter rumor that tailors will weave fire-retardant threads of asbestos. Both notions sound plausible. Historians of the future will argue which came first, the protective lamppost or the safer dress code. Documentation likely incomplete because committees love losing paperwork. Mystery guaranteed. 3:30, and drizzle stops again. Stars blink through ragged cloud. You lean on ladder rung, looking at waistcoat blackened at pocket edges. Button still gleams. Nearby shutter squeaks open. An elderly seamstress thanks you for light that lets her finish urgent hemline. She confides that wide panniers frighten her cat. You ask if she knows tricks to reduce lace combustibility. She suggests brushing with alum water then ironing inside out. You log mental recipe. Maybe Rocks will sponsor a trial. At lamp 40 you witness final spectacle of night. A coach lurches over pothole. Inside lamp tips, candle kisses brocade curtain. Puff. Flame crawls up fringe before footman yanks curtain free and smothers it against cobbles. No injuries, just scorched velvet emitting smell of heartbreak. Passengers, masked nobles, laugh shakily. Swear new curtains will arrive by noon, in next season's color anyway. Money apparently buys fire recovery kits. You arrive back at depot pre-dawn. Rock's eyes singed hat feather. Scribbles note. Feather flammability high. Evaluate next uniform revision. He weighs oil flask, nods at savings. Ledger also records 0 civilian combustions, a success metric you didn't realize existed. He flicks copper token into hand. Hazard bonus for crowd control. Another coin for soup fund. Trudging home, you catch reflection in milliner's dark window. Waistcoat creased, buttons askew. Soot smear across cheek like pirate eyeliner. Yet posture straighter. Uniform, even scorched, confers dignity. Maybe citizens will remember lamplighters not just as silhouettes on ladders but as guardians of silk and lace from their own vanity. Back in garret, you unfasten singed feather. Press it into journal as memento. You pen a note. Correlation between flamboyant sleeves and flame incidents nearly linear. Petition for sleeve tax? Then laughter shakes mattress. The idea of measuring sleeve width at city gates is absurd enough to be plausible. Sleep prepares ambush, but you linger, replaying images. Lace skirts glittering under lamp halos, powdered wigs releasing fragrant snow, flames dancing behind glass like disciplined actors. Despite hazards, there's beauty when fashion meets fire provided someone stands ready with snuffer and courage. That someone apparently is you. You stretch, feeling muscles protest but heart oddly buoyant. Outside, last lantern of your route fades as sunrise paints rooftops peach. Lace bouquets retreat to wardrobes and street stagehands. That's you. Exit unseen. Another night's performance concluded without costume casualties. Critics, those historians not yet born, may still argue whether open flames shaped fashion reform or vice versa, but tonight you've added one data point. Elegance survives when guarded by calloused hands. You drift toward pillow, waistcoat folded on chair to off-gas toasted damask aroma. A single moth flutters near extinguished candle stub. You wave it away gently. Even insects crave warmth, but there's no flame left to endanger them. City sighs under first bird call, and your eyes finally close. In dreams, lace cuffs twirl in slow motion around lantern sparks that politely bow instead of biting. Feathers glide overhead like sootless phoenixes. Historians in nightcaps debate footnotes on balcony, but their scrolls become ribbons curling into safe, smokeless embers. Somewhere, silver buttons chime as tiny bells, applauding your vigilance until morning folds the stage curtain. Sleep clocks out early, dragging you with it, because tonight's route has migrated to the old exchange district, a patchwork of taverns, counting houses, dueling yards, and backdoor theaters where gossip procreates faster than rabbits at midsummer. Rox delivers the news while handing over a fresh route card still warm from ink. Exchange, Fishgate, Catechist Lane, and careful, Dueler's Green. He winks as though you've won a holiday, but every lamplighter knows the district's real job description. Walking message board with built-in nightlight. You dress. Waistcoat scrubbed, buttons shined, ladder splinters begrudgingly sanded. A baker on the corner rewards your early start with a heel of rye. You trade a spare flint, unofficial currency among oven keepers who fear cold mornings more than taxes. Then it's across the river where fog curls up from black water like parchment smoke. The first lantern waits, eager to gossip. You climb. Flame leaps to life, and almost immediately two clerks beneath begin arguing bond yields. Unaware your perch offers word-for-word transcription. They reference sugar cargo still at sea, pirates, and an insurer rumored bankrupt. Your mental ledger fills faster than the oil reservoir. Welcome to the Midnight Social Network. Every whispered secret floats up to you. The city's unofficial cloud storage. At Fishgate Tavern the shutters rattle open and a serving girl dumps greasy dishwater onto cobbles, nearly baptizing your boots. She spots the uniform, shrugs apologetically, then gestures you closer. Oi, bright eyes. Is it true the governor's courier leaves at dawn? Need a name carried. You shake your head, couriers outrank lamplighters, but she presses a folded note anyway. Payment. A wedge of lemon cake. You pocket both, moral flexibility sweetened by citrus. Mainstream fact glimmers in memory. By 1703 London's coffeehouses doubled as postal hubs, letting patrons leave letters in labeled dishes for a penny. City councils grumbled but tolerated them. Cheaper mail meant fewer illiterate petitions clogging magistrates' desks. Some scholars posit this improvised network birthed modern journalism. Others insist it merely caffeinated rumor mills. Debates clog conference halls to this day. Lantern 7 stands outside the Scarlet Quill, a print shop that keeps presses thumping until dawn so pamphleteers can hawk fresh news at sunrise. You're trimming wick when owner-master Velt appears, ink up to elbows. Light a tad brighter, friend. Need to read proofs without plucking my eyes out. You oblige, adding a dram more oil. In gratitude he flashes tomorrow's headline. Local goldsmith accused of salting coins. Big news, but salt or not, you keep straight face. Lamplighters are expected to leak less than their flasks. Around the corner, Catechist Lane hosts Balthazar's fencing hall, where gentlemen practice the art of polite stabbing. Tonight blades clink behind shutter slits as instructor calls lunges. You set ladder at hall doorpost. Halfway up, two rival students exit, capes flying, cheeks flushed with adrenaline and brandy. They hiss plans for a dawn bout on Riverbank Field. Strictly hush-hush. You, overhead, become both witness and potential announcer. They never look up. You file away details, location, seconds names, agreed weapon length, in case constables come asking or, more profitably, seconds offer coin for silence. Quirky knowledge break. Some German towns in the 1680s hired lamplighters to ring tiny bells while making rounds. A double duty meant to discourage clandestine duels by advertising approaching light. The plan failed within a month. Duelists simply rescheduled for when bell shifts ended. Your city, ever frugal, skipped bells and saved the embarrassment. Back on street level, boot heels clatter, messenger boys dart between counting houses, crossing under your newborn halos. One pauses, panting, asks the quickest route to North Dock. You gesture 3 corners west. He grins, tucks copper into your palm. That makes 3 currencies tonight. Cake, gossip, coin. One more and you'll need a ledger of your own. Lamp 12 perches beside Barber Tomas's. Open late for gamblers wanting clean shaves before breakfast wagers. Tomas insists that smooth cheeks bluff opponents. You listen as he and a bookmaker debate odds on tomorrow's grain prices, which rise or fall with rumors of French harvest blight. You could correct their data. Overheard clerks earlier pegged the blight rumor false, but holding the advantage feels like secret insulation against the night chill. Halfway through route, a drizzle begins, turning conversation into whispers beneath cloaks. This is prime listening weather. Fewer footsteps, more murmurs. On duelers, green torchlight flutters from within a circle of spectators surrounding two figures stripping to shirt sleeves. An impromptu midnight duel, practice maybe, but steel flashes. You plant ladder on the periphery, trim lantern, and act like neutral constellation. Over peak vantage grants you commentary. One fencer favors low guard, audience wavers between cheers and bets, stakes escalate to gold ring plus IOU for future favors. You consider odds, but Lamplighter wagers violate guild code. Officially. Instead, you memorize names, thinking of tomorrow's print shop. News loves bloodless scandal nearly as much as bloody. Academic uncertainty cameo. Historians still argue whether Lamplighter testimonies in duel inquests were impartial or motivated by bribes. Court records list both glowing commendations and damning contradictions. Since most Lamplighters were illiterate, statements passed through scribes, muddying authenticity. Tonight you add one new strand to that historiographical knot, none the wiser which side future scholars will tug. Past the green, the mint archway funnels wind sharp enough to slice vowels off words. Here you encounter two hooded figures trading purses beneath one of your earlier lamps. Light exposes their ledger books and wax seals. Coins clink mutedly. They freeze when ladder foot thumps stone, but you pretend blindness. After all, Lamplighters move stars around. They don't police comets. Down Turnspit Alley you nearly collide with Lizette, the seamstress Armistice's daughter, lugging tapestry roll. She asks if the guild's charter vote passed. Rumor said lantern budget might double. You have no answer but promise to keep ear open. Information becomes bartered thread. She offers to mend your cloak tear once news arrives. Lamplight 15 outside anchor and ale glows over a motley perfumed crowd reading broadsides pinned to door. One broadside mocks alderman taxes with caricatures drawn so crudely even your smudged thumbprints could sue for defamation. Each laugh beneath lamp breeds new whispers. You listen, glean trending grievances, salt duty, window levy, that perennial villain, road sludge removal fee. The lamp above becomes both stage light and suggestion box. Soon you reach the footbridge to Chandler's Court. A widow wraps shawl tight, pacing under my flame waiting for absent son from docks. You descend ladder gently, ask if she's cold. She mutters rumor of press gangs roaming tonight. Son might be dragged to Navy. You promise to keep watch. Lamplighter patrol is thin comfort, but street's only uniform she sees. As you continue, you note silhouettes ahead, maritime coats glimmering with tar stains. They vanish when lantern brightens. Maybe rumor, maybe not. You mark route card, possible press gang near Chandler's. Rocks love such notes. City Watch pays bonus for credible intel. Mainstream tidbit. Early 18th century British towns offered Lamplighters a small stipend for reporting suspicious assemblies. Payment ledger from 1712 shows bonuses equaling half a week's wage per tip. Some argue the practice birthed modern neighborhood policing. Others accuse councils of weaponizing civic vigilance for budget savings over proper constabulary. Scholars split on moral ledger as always. Lantern 18, nicknamed the Banker, for casting light on counting house doorway, needs extra polish. Glass smudged by previous night's drizzle. You wipe until reflection sharp enough to shave. In the glint you spot another lamplighter, Sibbo, across street tilting his pole at odd angle. Then you decode pattern. 2 quick tilts left, 1 right, again left. It's guild shorthand meaning constable inbound. You nod back with single circular sweep. Route clear. This semaphore, taught in hushed tones, lets night crew steer clear of overzealous watchmen who fine for imagined infractions. Quirky fact, Dutch lamplighters reputedly used colored ribbons on pole tips for similar signals. Evidence thin, but murals depict red and blue tassels fluttering like medieval emoticons. Constable indeed rounds corner. He passes under your fresh lamp, tips hat. Notebook emerges, scribbles oil odor metrics or civility quotient. You never read his runic shorthand. He notes nothing amiss, moves on. Semaphore success. By now fog retreats, replaced by crisp starlight. Exchange bells toll 2:30. The final quarter of shift often yields richest pickings. Exhausted tongues wag freely. A trio of journeyman coopers debate new oak supply tariffs while sharing loaf. They wave you over. A spare slice buttered with salted lard becomes your cameo dinner. In return you share rumor about sugar cargo delay, cloaked as question. Barter complete, you depart with stomach less hollow and ears heavier. Lamp 23 near astrologer's storefront houses a pet crow named Mercator who perches inside cage hang bracket. You open lantern door. Crow croaks by stars. Phrase it's learned from passers-by hawking charts. You refill oil, the bird pecks your glove politely. Its owner emerges, offers horoscope discount for lamplighter. You decline, joking you already predict sunrise at 5:14. He laughs, admits accuracy. Ahead, alley curves into shadow court. A cul-de-sac with townhouse balconies almost touching overhead. Perfect funnel for clandestine liaison. You climb ladder. While trimming wick you spy couple below whispering in French. Clearly not locals. Keywords: shipment, embargo, mid-channel handoff, float up, political or mercantile intrigue, who knows. You memorize accent, ring signet shapes. Could fetch coin at Embassy Tavern or, safer, remain locked behind your teeth. Wisdom tonight leans toward silence. Flame steady, you descend to find a scrap of parchment tucked in ladder rung. Need discreet oil refills at South Quay. Double pay. No signature. You crumple it. Private gigs during municipal shift risk job, but nice to be asked. Reputation travels faster than candle wick. Near lamp 27 stands the Penny University coffee stall, serving cups to bleary accountants calculating interest under lantern halo. Proprietor steams chicory brew and invites you to warm hands over pot. You oblige. He shares scandal. Court tailor arrested for padding bills by selling same lace twice. Once to Duchess, once back to warehouse, pocketing difference. Your eyes widen but you add it to mental ticker of news. History cameo. The world's first daily newspaper, Einkommen Zeitungen of Leipzig, 1660, relied heavily on correspondence, often travelers or street workers, feeding morsels from ports. Some historians propose lamplighters served similar roles unofficially, though evidence is anecdotal and heavily romanticized. Nevertheless, you feel kinship with that idea, human routers in a pre-copper wire age. Approaching near end route at Notary's Corner, two advocates under lantern glow exchange sealed envelope for slim ledger. They freeze seeing you. You tip hat, slide past, leaving their secret intact. Professional discretion buys longevity almost as much as sturdy boots. Back toward Exchange Square you spot commotion. Courier collapsed, ankle twisted on slick stone. Horse spooked away. Without transport, his dispatches to parliamentary committee will miss dawn ferry. You heft ladder, improvise crutch along its side rail, splinting with your belt. Two bystanders help him hobble to apothecary. In the shuffle you glimpse wax seal on pouch. Royal cipher. Serious stakes. Apothecary promises laudanum. You continue but pocket a note courier drops. Destination schedule. Might come in handy if city watch questions your improvised ambulance. Route nearly done, you revisit earlier lamps, topping tiny dips in oil, wiping dew. At Banker Lantern you find small cloth bundle. Half-dozen silver buttons identical to gilt ones but stamped with Ursa instead of lantern. You're tempted sellable, but attach note. Wrong emblem, try tailor shop. Leave bundle on post. Even a gossip gardener needs a moral fence. Approaching depot, sky lightens slate gray. Your card brims with jotting. Press gang sighting, coffeehouse rumor, dual appointment, courier mishap. Rock schemes and whistles low. Quite the harvest. Watch might pay for half of this, Guildhall for the other. He inks 2 bonus marks next to your name. You ask if that means coin. End of week. After verification. Bureaucracy remains bureaucracy, even when greased by intrigue. Still, your soup budget just grew. Before stowing gear, you sift pockets. Lemon cake crumb, 2 coppers, spool of thread from Lizette, folded dual schedule, courier timetable, and the perfumery patron's nearly singed handkerchief now smelling faintly of caramelized citrus. Each item a node in the night's sprawling network. Physical hyperlinks connecting people who may never meet, but whose fates orbit your ladder's slow trajectory. Homebound dawn feels warmer than yesterday though thermometer lacks proof. Perhaps network's energy rubs off. You cross Brewer's Bridge, eyeing river now peach-tinged. A fisherman tips hat. You share nod, silent acknowledgement of shift change. Your gossip nets hauled in, his herring nets going out. In garret you pin notes to inside of trunk. Duel at riverbank. Avoid route. Press gangs active. Tariff rumor, verify. You're becoming part archivist, part intelligence broker. Historians unknown to you will later chase such breadcrumbs, debating authenticity. Some will declare Lamplighters the proto-Twitter. Others dismiss anecdotes as lantern smoke. You shrug at imaginary scholars and chew last lemon-flavored crumb. Boots off, feet steam like weary geysers. You stretch, hearing spine pop in Morse code. Outside, one lamp still visible from bed flickers. Sibbo's shift perhaps. Flame steadies. City's pulse syncs with it. You close eyes, hearing phantom whispers. Bond yields, secret cargoes, powdered wig fires. Love affairs negotiating after midnight clauses. All saved in safe deposit box called memory. Slumber creeps in, sewing eyelids shut with fine linen thread. Final waking thought. Tomorrow night brings payday gossip, and you'll step once more into river of words, trimming truth, pouring speculation, igniting stories that scatter like moths. But for now, networks go dark and you drift offline. Payday dawns disguised as any other, gray, yawning, soaked in chimney breath. But your bones know it's special long before the clock in Fishgate rings 7 slow clangs. They vibrate like tuning forks calibrated to copper. 3 shifts of darkness, 48 lamps each, 1 cider-soaked sprint, and countless whispers later, you are owed official gratitude in the shape of jingling discs. Or, more accurately, clacking wooden tallies that claim to represent future jingling discs. Welcome to Municipal Finance, Early Baroque Edition. The depot yard bustles with ladders propped like picket fences and lamplighters in queue, each clutching a route token. Rocks has transfigured a packing crate into a wages dais. Beside him squats a heavy oaken chest iron banded enough to survive a small siege. A padlock the size of a baby's head droops from its hasp. He pockets the key with melodramatic flourish, then thumps ledger, ink, and abacus onto crate top. Orderly line, names clear, no quibbling over decimals. Remember, decimals aren't invented locally yet. He quips to collective groan. Sibbo, 2 spots ahead. Murmurs that last quarter's tally sticks were shaved from cheap pine and snapped before payday, invalidating them. You glance at your own. A notched lath branded with city seal. So fragile you could whittle it into toothpicks by accident. Don't fidget, you remind nervous thumb. Mainstream fact surfaces. Tally sticks, split wooden rods recording debts. Served English exchequer until 1826, when a bungled ceremonial burning of old tallies set the Houses of Parliament ablaze. The cautionary tale hasn't been written yet, but the scent of potential irony already hangs in the dew. Hugh advances. Mirwin exits dais jangling 3 true coins and winking. Hazard bonus for pulling constable from canal, he whispers. You make note. Rescuing authority figures pays more than trimming wicks. Behind, rookie para counts her copper, frowns, then pockets it with theatrical optimism. At least it weighs respectably. Your turn. Rocks consults ledger. Route B Mid-City, 3 nights. No glass lost. Oil under quota, good thrift. Standard wage, 5 shillings. He opens chest, fishes out pennies, 36 of them. Sliding stacks across crate. Copper clinks like reluctant applause. 5 shillings in pennies feels heavier than self-doubt. Yet your eyes narrow. By last month's schedule that should be 6. You clear throat. Ledger in March promised bonus for festival coverage. Rocks flips pages. Right civic illumination surcharge. 4 pence. Already included. He taps 4 mismatched coins obviously scraped from bottom. Lesson. Argue and receive pocket lint. You consider escalating, but memories of the latter replacement fee freeze tongue. Discretion beats destitution. You scoop coppers into pouch already sagging with flint shards and thread spools. Now coin rattle joins toolkit symphony. On leaving dais, you spot adjunct clerk recording negative balance for Lamplighter Yuta. She borrowed advance for medicine. Wage barely covers interest. Clerk's quill twitches like vulture feathers. You grimace. Quirky tidbit. Some royal dockyards paid workers entirely in truck. Vouchers redeemable only at company shops, ensuring wages boomeranged straight back. Historians bicker whether such systems were proto-credit convenience or institutionalized serfdom. Your copper feels suddenly freer, if fewer. With pay secured, tradition dictates celebratory breakfast at the Knotted Rope Tavern. You and Sibbo claim bench beside smoky hearth. Tavern wife sets down bowls of oat porridge crowned by solitary currant. Luxury currants cost extra. Wages day justifies splurge. You drop 2 pennies on table. One rolls, rescued by barefoot kid who trades it for crumb of bread. Thought experiment. Will that penny light a lamp someday? Conversation drifts to personal budgets. Sibbo plans new boots. The rat gashes in his soles whistle like piccolo on windy routes. You dream of gloves lined with rabbit fur and maybe a candle stub actually scented pleasant. Mere win, nursing tankard, boasts Hill by sheet music for his daughter's spinet. Culture, he says, is the only commodity inflation can't pilfer. Everyone raises spoons to that lofty notion, even if none recall exact definition of inflation. At bar, a pickpocket named Breezy Ned brags louder. His night's haul, rings, handkerchiefs, half-guinea. Dwarfs combined lamplighter pay. Don't fret, he toasts mock sympathy. You lot keep streets bright. I just harvest what shines. Ned's grin hides missing premolar, testimony to occupational hazards rivaling yours. You contemplate moral relativity over current. An hour later, you stride to Market Square where city money changer Thalas converts copper into mixed silver for small fee. He slides scales, weighs pennies, removes any shave thin. 3 he rejects. Clipped, he says, curling lip. You protest they were rocks issued, but he shrugs. Wait or walk. Mainstream reference. Coin clipping, shaving edges for slivers of precious metal, plagued pre-milled currency economies. Newton, master of the mint, 1699, later crusade against clippers, some hanged. Your city hasn't reached such zeal yet. Instead losses trickle down to wages like yours. With lighter pouch you wander toward Haberdasher Lane, hunting gloves. Stall after stall presents wool finger sacks dyed in drab. Finally find tan leather pair sporting small burn patch on index tip, discounted to threepence. Seller swears patch is lucky. You slip them on. Snug, supple, smelling of tallow dubbin. Sold. Gloves purchased, you still clutch 8 pence. Luxury. A journeyman engraver under arcade etches silhouettes for tuppence. You watch families pose, sunlight projecting profiles upon polished tin. Artist wields burin as deftly as you wield snuffer. Tempting, but silhouette won't stop ladders rotting. Priorities. Soap and cheap candles. You spend 4 pence at Chandler. Tallow blocks heavy as guilt. Back near depot, notice bulletin nailed to post. Council proposal. Consolidate lamplighter routes. Introduce performance-based pay. Fine print sites, recent budget strains. Academic quarrel already brewing. City pamphleteers argue whether paper lamp will boost efficiency or invite corner-cutting darkness. Your gut picks option B. Afternoon drifts into chores. Mending ladder rung with borrowed brace. Rubbing beeswax on pole thread. Trimming spare wicks. Leather gloves broken in with linseed rub become second skin. Copper residue under nails scrubs off with pumice. Whale oil scent clings stubborn as reputation. As dusk threatens, Rocks convenes quick briefing. Tonight, auditors roam to inspect lamp lumen output. Carry frosted globes calibrated by some alchemist. High brightness rumored to earn merit pips, redeemable for quarter shilling at month's end. Carrot on stick, but carrot small. Still, lamplighters crave recognition like moss craves damp. You nod gamely. New route card lists fewer blocks. Budget shuffle at work. But each lamp flagged, critical zone, means merchants paid extra for customer-luring glow. Your coin pouch now contains threepence after purchases. A merit pip could restore solvency. Night duties begin by river stairs where fishmongers scrub stalls. You light first lamp, admiring how new gloves repel soot. Grip firmer, confidence brighter. Auditors nowhere yet. You nonetheless angle wick slightly forward. Trick Mirwin claims reflects light across street better without extra oil. Science? Maybe. If flame wobbles later, you'll adjust. Lamp for reveals soap investment wise. Glass squeaks pristine under cloth, reflecting flame like miniature sunrise. Passerby compliments brightness. You bow, imagining a merit pip sprouting wings. By lamp 7 auditors finally materialize. 2 figures in velvet capes, each brandishing glass sphere faintly glowing blue. They hold spheres near lantern, observe color shift, jot in ledger. You stand aside, heart drumming. One murmurs acceptable plus. Scribbles tick. They move on. You exhale steam, half-shilling dancing before eyes. Quirky aside. Early photometric devices measured lamp superiority by comparing candle power against glowworms sealed in tubes. Urban myth perhaps, but Royal Society minutes mention coleopteran luminosity reference. Historians squint, argue satire versus prototype. Further along, you meet alley of pawnshops where poor pledge Sunday shoes for Monday bread. Lights here must comfort yet not mock. You trim wicks modest, preventing glare that spotlights desperation. Pawnbroker nods thanks, presses battered brass button into hand. Some merchant token. Collectible? Maybe. Pocket weighs moral ambiguity. Route midpoint crosses Arcus Bridge. Favorite haunt of penny musicians. Tonight, a hurdy-gurdy player drones melancholic reel under freshly primed lamp. You drop halfpenny. He winks, spins crank. Light gleams off rosin dust, turning tune into visible shimmer. Auditors passing pause to enjoy. You silently hope correlation between artistry and illumination factors into scorecard. Academic tussle cameo. Cultural economists debate whether street lighting catalyzed public nightlife or merely followed growing nocturnal appetite. Diaries from Lion, 1680s. Record theater attendance doubled after lamp rollout. Skeptics blame unrelated tax relaxation. Still unresolved. Tonight you provide fresh anecdote. The Gertie man wouldn't risk strings in dark. Lamp 15. Flame refuses symmetrical globe despite perfect wick. You recall Oswin's dual flame prototype stored behind Depot Forge. Not on you. Improvisation. Angle reflector shard inside lamp, increasing forward spill. Works. Auditors note, innovative glare diffusion. Might translate to extra pip or lecture from guild for unauthorized modification. Flip a coin. Near apothecary you spy pickpocket breezy Ned eyeing drunken clerk beneath your lamp. Clerk's purse heavy with accounts. Ned flicks glance at you, finger to cap, as if asking lamp dim please. You stare back, hand on pole hook. Ned sighs, melts into shadow. Your copper wage may be peanuts, but your moral currency remains whole. Late night, drizzle returns. New gloves repel water, saving grip. Though copper lightens pocket, pride refills heart. Audit team reappears, tallying final scores. They hand-stamp chit. For pips, worth a shilling at month end. You grin, soap and gloves validated. Approaching depot near dawn, you cross ledger with rocks. He eyes chit, nods grudging respect. Keep that dry, he advises. Ink runs faster than council coffers. You store chit between candle stubs. Home in garret, you tip remaining penny onto table. Next to it, merit chit, brass token, and silhouette of gloves on chair rail compose still life of working class aspiration. You light personal stub, savor faint beeswax not whale oil. Flame small but wholly yours. Lying back you calculate, base wage 5 shillings minus soap, gloves, candles, diet. Yet intangible ledger shows plus values. Safer climbs, brighter streets, fewer singed sleeves, moral victories over Rox's decimals and Ned's temptations. Whether historians eventually frame Lamplighter pay as exploitation or early public works triumph, they can't quantify the hush that fills your chest when a lamp you tended hums quietly in rain, guarding strangers' dreams. Sleep creeps with velvet tread, coin lullaby clinking inside pouch by bed. You drift into arithmetic dreams where pennies sprout lanterns and merit pips orbit like tiny moons. And somewhere beyond shutters, copper glints in puddles. Proof wages, though meager, left honest shine on the night. The first letter slides under your garret door before dawn even thinks about opening its eyes. Thick parchment, city seal, faint whiff of clove smoke. You slit it with the edge of your snuffer blade, practical multitasking, and discover a summons written in ink so dark it could double as midnight. Attendance required at Guildhall Subchamber B, second hour past noon, to discuss matters pertinent to the Fraternity of Municipal Night Illuminators. That mouthful means only one thing. The Lamplighter Guild, half-legendary and wholly disorganized, has decided to notice you exist. You wash the whale oil ghost off your hands, button those silver badges that rocks grudgingly issued, and rehearse posture in cracked mirror. Council corridors reward confidence the way taverns reward coin. Downstairs, you trade a candle stub for watered ale, the only breakfast the barkeep's willing to pour before sunrise, then march toward Guildhall like a lantern with legs. Outside, rain taps cobbles with fingers of skeptical applause. You turn up collar and pass last night's lamps, their flames shrinking as daylight swells. A few shopkeepers salute with brooms. Even at this hour they know you by stride and pole silhouette. Respect feels nice, but the summons flutters in pocket like caged moth reminding you rank can vanish with one committee vote. Guildhall squats at the city's navel, a Baroque behemoth of sandstone and stubborn ego. Gargoyles drip rainwater onto marble steps. You dodge each splash like veteran infantry. Inside, steward ushers you down stairwells that smell of old resolutions and newer mildew. Subchamber B sits behind double doors carved with torches, lamps, and, intriguingly, a rooster symbol you'll later learn, for bringer of dawn. The doors creak open to reveal smoke thick enough to butter toast. Dozens of lamplighters huddle around oak table the size of small continent. Some Cibo, Mirwin, Utah. Others wear uniforms boasting buttons engraved with entirely different symbols. Sunburst, crescent moon. Even a candle set in book. Rival factions, apparently. A brazier in corner smolders with wet pine, stoking the fog that blurs outlines and tempers egos into silhouettes. You take seat halfway down and hope not to inhale splinter. A gravel-voiced elder named Master Eindrick pounds gavel fashioned from spent oil flask. Brothers, sisters, and those between ladders. He begins. Our craft stands at crossroads. The city council, praise their crooked abacus, contemplates contracting routes to private bidders. Murmurs swell. Eindrick raises hand. But we, as fraternity, hold charter rights dating back to the days of 5 lanterns. Tonight, we reaffirm sovereignty before gatekeepers erode it. Mainstream history drop. Several European cities. London in 1698. Paris earlier. Granted Lamplighter confraternities semi-official status so members could negotiate wages and defend against arbitrary dismissals. Records show charters sealed with wax and pomp. Yet actual enforcement wobbled like your ladder in gale. Some scholars argue these charters laid groundwork for modern labor unions. Others insist they were mere political theater. Debate continues to scorch academic newsletters. Back to chamber. Discussion derails into territorial bickering faster than rats at fish market. Portside crew accuses Uptown chapter of siphoning premium whale oil. Uptown retorts that Portside falsifies wick counts. Someone waves soot-stained ledger pages as evidence. Someone else counters with string of colorful adjectives that would blister candle wax. Chair legs scrape. Tempers flare. Ironically, no one dares strike flint in this oxygen-deprived haze. You keep mouth shut, absorbing currents. So this is guild politics. Less noble brotherhood, more soap opera with extra soot. Yet buried under theatrics lies legitimate fear. If council privatizes lighting, fraternities fracture, wages plummet, and performance-based schemes turn co-workers into competitors. Eindrick slams gavel again, calling for proposals. A wiry woman named Iona, Lantern District Delegate, suggests standardized training to prove guilds' superior craftsmanship. She outlines curriculum. Not theory, flame physics, basic arithmetic for oil ratios. You nod approvingly. Standardized training might raise pay scales, but rival delegate Boris scoffs, claiming students will leak trade secrets to would-be scabs. Round of boos, claps, and coughs. Quirky knowledge cameo. The Warsaw Lamplighter Guild reportedly required apprentices to memorize 312 unique window silhouettes along routes, so they could confirm lamp placement by shadows alone. Whether genius or myth, historians still argue. No two surviving route maps match silhouettes. In chamber, proposal after proposal sparks then sputters. One faction demands ceremonial torches at quarterly processions to advertise indispensability. Public spectacle equals political armor. Another insists on bribing scribes to doctor council minutes. You picture rocks reading doctored minutes and laugh internally. He'd spot loose ink instantly. Suddenly gavel arcs to you. Eindrick's smoky gaze pins. New face, blue waistcoat, speak. What says fresh ladder blood? Heart jumps but words materialize. Our strength is night knowledge. We hear every rumor, rescue every lost drunk, track every broken pain. Maybe we levy a reporting tithe. Council pays not just for light, but for intelligence we already supply informally. Whispers ripple. You've repackaged gossip into commodity streetlight data. Sibbo raises both brows impressed. Uptown delegate scratches chin. Portside slowly nods. Resistance emerges from Candlebook's emblem delegate who warns turning in citizens risks public trust. Historians, yet unborn, will later catalog identical arguments around 19th-century police lantern patrols, and still disagree which side preserved liberty or sold it for lamplighter pensions. Debate warms, but Eindrick smells momentum. He tasks committee Iona U to draft petition quantifying security value of lamplighter intel. Meeting adjourns on rare note of consensus. Gather evidence, present at council in 2 weeks. Feud recesses. Politics recesses. Everyone exhales. After session air beyond Guildhall tastes like fresh parchment. Clean, promising, fragile. You and committee partners duck into adjacent coffeehouse, the Soot and Syllable, where clientele includes scriveners erasing mistakes with crusts of bread. Over cups of muddy Arabica you brainstorm data capture. Number of crimes deterred, lost children guided home, fires spotted early. Yuta mentions she once recorded a runaway horse before dawn. Iona lists housebreakers she scared off by simply rattling ladder rungs. You recall rescuing courier with ankle twist. Notebook pages fill with anecdotes turning human stories into policy bullets. Mid-conversation, coffeehouse door bangs open. Rock steps in, coat steaming from drizzle. He eyes your company. Plotting revolution? He jokes, but tension thrums. Guild politics rarely amuse depot bosses. They juggle council quotas and prefer workforce quiet. You defuse with half-truth, just sharing route efficiencies. Rox accepts, buys sweet bun for each. That's cheaper than spying. Later, you part ways, promising to swap witness logs tomorrow. Head spins from caffeine and committee responsibility. Career once measured by oil drips now weighs civic influence. Evening approaches, bringing wind that bellows through alleys like cathedral organ warming up. Tonight's shift remains, politics or not. You grease ladder feet, don new gloves, and feel strange electricity. Like lanterns themselves conspired to cast spotlight on your ambitions. Route begins in Scholar's Burrow, where university spires loom and disputations echo past curfew. Lamp 1 stands by print shop hawking treatises on comet orbits. You climb, relishing glove grip, until voice below calls, "Light architect." You glance down at professor in moth-eaten robes. He requests flame be raised precisely 2 inches, claims observing refracted halos aids optic study. You oblige, then note request in Intel ledger. Academic usage of municipal light. Lamp 5 outside student tavern hosts entire balcony of debaters chanting Latin ergo arguments. Altercation brews. Ale sloshes. You adjust reflector to expand light spill, hoping brightness dampens brawl. It does for all of 30 seconds before fists resume. Still, you witnessed microcase of illumination failing to quell temper. Data point for committee. Mainstream fact interlude. Early London's Bow Street runners attributed 15% crime drop near newly installed oil lamps, 1720s. Yet tavern brawls showed negligible change. Historians split whether statistic fudge or reflection of alcohol sovereignty over caution. Dueler's green appears again. Empty tonight save cricket chirp. Your lamp reveals fresh chalk circles still on grass. Evidence of morning contest. You sketch ring size on slate, converting rumor into measurable proof. Each scribble feels like mortar between guild petition bricks. By midnight, ledger contains notes about stray dogs herded from Baker's Alley by lamp brightness, lovers delaying illicit rendezvous until flames snuffed at dawn, and workshop apprentices stealing extra overtime slivers thanks to widened glow. Your lights calibrate the rhythm of countless strangers. Wind intensifies, drizzle renews. At lamp 20 Cibo intercepts, flashing semaphore, gatekeepers near. Minutes later you spot council auditor. Not the lumen kind, but civic clerk tallying lamp integrity. Clipboard emerges. He inspects glass for cracks, hinge for rust. You shadow him, quietly pointing recent repairs, weaving subtle narrative of lamplighter diligence. Clerk nods, pencil ticks columns. Propaganda by presence. Historic controversy cameo. Some archives suggest lamplighter guilds paid clerks under table to inflate performance records. Others show clerks actually bribed guilds for hush payments to ignore favor theft. Layers of quid pro quo like onions soaked in kerosene. Historians peel, still differ on core. Rain escalates to sideways spear. You shield wick with snuffer dome during pour, mental autopilot freeing brain to rehearse petition opening lines. Whereas the guardianship of nocturnal welfare resides not only in lumens but in human vigilance. It needs rhythm, something to charm aldermen more than dusty ledgers. Maybe borrow professor's light architect phrase. Past 2 o'clock, you reach Merchant Quay where smugglers rumored swap casks. Under lamp 33 a figure crouches prying crate. You clear throat. He startles, draws blade, then realizes you're no constable. Keep lamp pointed yonder. He grunts, jerking thumb away, trying to buy shadow. You instead lean reflector to flood pier. He curses, slinks off. You just prevented theft or interrupted a tariff dodge. Either way, ledger note. Lamp presence disrupted unauthorized cargo access. Case study. Final stretch features Courthouse Square. You remember reading about early night courts, convened by lamplight to expedite simple cases. Your city flirted with idea then abandoned due to candle expenses. You imagine future where your lamps enable swift justice sessions. Maybe committee could recycle concept as cost-neutral nocturnal tribunals. Another jot. Dawn lifts clouds by scruff. Depot lanterns fade. You submit nightly damage sheet and new intel ledger to Rocks, who raises eyebrow at thickness. Writing novel? You grin. Collecting proof are jobs bigger than oil. He snorts, but sets ledger aside carefully, maybe glimpsing his own job's fate intertwined. Garrett welcomes you with scent of drying gloves and soggy socks. You stash copy of ledger under mattress just in case. Candle stub flickers, echoing committee's spark. Despite fatigue, you draft petition outline on scrap parchment till letters swim. Final line. Historians may quarrel about origins, but tonight we shape the sequel. You chuckle, lofty yet true. Sleep drapes over shoulders gentler than any guild cloak. In dreams, subchamber B expands into cathedral lit by infinite lanterns. Every flame forms letter, and together they spell charter rights shining so bright gatekeepers retreat behind ledgers. You float among phrases, guiding wick shears like quills, trimming sentences for clarity. Meanwhile, gargoyle roosters crow approval. You wake to timid beam through shutters, knowing committee meets again at noon. Another day, another ladder, but also another paragraph in Guild Saga authored partly by you. And even if council ink still dries crooked, lamplighters have found their voice, and you've found out it carries farther than any oil's glow. Late autumn winds arrive with a vendetta, blasting through shutters and informing every rafter that your city has signed a non-aggression pact with sunlight that lasts, at best, for paltry hours per day. You try to yank blanket higher, but dawn's breath sneaks in, sniffs your toes, and declares them fair game. Outside, roof tiles ping as sleet begins its seasonal percussion. Congratulations. Tonight you will discover what whale oil turns into when it shares a bedroom with ice. You're due at the depot long before the first frost feather fully crystallizes on window panes. Gloves on, scarf knotted, Waistcoat layered beneath overcloak that smells like damp while having an existential crisis. Downstairs, puddles that last week looked merely sullen have upgraded to brittle gray shells. One misstep and you shatter them like sugar glass. By the river, mist clots so thick that moored boats seem carved out of chalk. Quartermaster Rocks greets you with a sentence that would make brass monkeys pack their bags. Oils congealing. Straight to the warming shed. Chop chop. Inside the shed, barrels huddle around braziers like gossiping hens. Steam rises as workers stir oil with oar-sized paddles. Breaking up cloudy clumps the color of cold butter. One paddle snaps. Sighs follow. Here's your first lesson of the season. Whale oil below 5 degrees turns into something between jelly and pessimism. Mainstream fact, records from Stockholm, 1702, note entire city quarters dark for weeks because frozen oil refused to flow, prompting emergency import of tallow candles at ruinous price. Meanwhile, historians still debate whether those records inflated hardship to justify tariff reductions, or if Swedish winters can, indeed, humble arithmetic. Rocks hands you a smaller flask wrapped in sheepskin. Insulated prototype. Don't drop it. Council wants field data. You nod, pretend scientific gravitas, and wonder whether field data means your frost-nipped knuckles. Next comes a thumb-length lump of beeswax to smear on ladder rungs. Frozen with slips like philosophy. Sibbo appears in cap dusted with hoarfrost, shaking flask like maraca. Oil slush, he grins. Extra viscosity means less spillage. Silver linings. Friend. Silver, maybe. Lining, debatable. Route assignment tonight is the high terrace. All sharp inclines and wind tunnels. You shoulder ladder. Feel cold bite through coat as if metal teeth lurk in seams. Breath puffs white dragons. First lamp stands under cracked gargoyle spout leaking icicles. You wedge ladder feet into crusty snow. Ascend carefully. Each rung squeals protest. At lamp mouth, oil in reservoir has jellied to opaque pudding. You scoop it out with wick trimmer, a motion reminiscent of serving questionable custard. Sheepskin-wrapped flask pours grudgingly. Thick glob gurgles, but soon liquid warms against metal housing. Flint strike. Spark dazzles. Flame hesitates, coughs, then throbs alive. One sun born in perpetual dusk. Climbing down you nearly skate off last rung. Beeswax only partially successful. Quirky survival tip from veteran Mirwin echoes. Spit on sols then dust with ash, instant winter tread. Gross but effective. You comply, ignoring dignity's whimper. A muffled cheer drifts from bakery. First lamp always draws applause when nights lengthen. Lamp 3 perches at ridge where wind accelerates. You brace ladder, climb until gale slaps face raw. While trimming wick, snow needles sting cheeks. Below, 2 chimney sweeps argue whether soot insulates rooftops. You mentally file for committee's night knowledge annex. Oil glugs slower than municipal paperwork. You cradle reservoir with gloved palm, sharing body heat. Romantic if you fancied heavy metal boxes. Once flame blooms, wind warps it sideways like orange pennant. You adjust door vents. Stable for now. Interlude of folk science. Sailors claim tossing a pinch of salt into oil prevents winter bloom. Academics at Leiden University attempted replication in 1711. Results inconclusive, lab notes smeared by spilled brine. Debate salted ever since. Lamp 6 reveals a new adversary called candle ice, thin, opaque rime coating interior glass. Light diffuses into ghostly blur. Lovely but useless for navigation. You draw scraper, carve patterns resembling frost lace, then polish with rag until clarity returns. Quick artistry garners gasp from passing seamstress, who calls it winter window embroidery. You bow slightly. Career diversification? Ahead, cobblestones vanish under sleet-slick sheet. You anchor ladder using 2 sand-filled socks. Innovation courtesy of Yuta. They grip, but your knees mutter litigation threats. Flame there ignites after third try. Flint sparks slip from glove and ping off glass, leaving comet tails. Hands numb, you flex fingers until they tingle like bees gossiping. Wool mittens under leather gloves? Mental note for payday. Mid-route, you reach Bellringer Square where City Watch tests frost hinges on gate chains. They borrow your light to read rust marks, then blame you when Gust extinguishes their lantern. You relight, they grunt thanks. Cold breeds curt civility. Historic digression. Paris employed chien allumet, dogs pulling miniature oil wagons following lamplighters. Body heat allegedly keeping oil fluid. Caricatures of 1,695 depict poodles in leather harnesses. Whether satire or pilot program, scholars still snarl over reliability. Wind shifts north, bringing smell of pine resin from Carpenter District. Lamp 14's glass shattered, ice fissure, perhaps. You replace pane despite fingers stiffening so hard you drop copper clip. Hear it ping off snow. Clip lost, you improvise tie with wire from pocket. Good enough. Historians won't include that in monographs, but passerby with squint will sleep safer. Atop high terrace crest, you pause. City below glitters under moonlit frost. Lamps you birthed twinkling like pocketful of coins flung across map. Beauty sneaks past chattering teeth and settles warm behind sternum. Even frozen oil can't smother that smug glow. Brief respite shattered by icy rain needles. Ladder becomes lightning rod of cold. You hurry, deploying Rox's insulated flask. Success ratio rising, 3 fewer relights than same point last year. According to Sibbo's bragging ledger. Perhaps sheepskin works. Turning into Papermaker's Alley, you discover novelty. Icicles attached to ladder top produce eerie chime each time pole taps them. Unplanned carillon accompanies your work, drawing children bundled like dumplings. They question how flame survives snow. You explain in theatrical whisper about invisible dancing air blankets. Awe ensues. One child gifts dried apple slice. Sweetness momentarily banishes wind. Lamp 20 houses colony of winter moths clinging inside lantern warmth. Their silhouettes flutter against glass like living shadow puppet show. You could evict them, but decide biological company beats frost. Besides, wings help circulate heat upward. A mini bellows nature edition. Snow deepens. Paw prints appear, dogs or maybe the rumored stray wolf from foothills. You tighten scarf, ascend next ladder. At midpoint, Gust yanks hat. It cartwheels into darkness. Immediate brain freeze as snow kisses scalp. You finish lighting, then search ground. Hat landed in slush rivulet now headed for drain. Retrieve sopping tricorn. Reshape, ring out. Looks like deflated pastry but still warms. Approach to Pillory Road brings extra hazard. Stocks iced over, turning walkway into curling rink. You tip sand from spare sock, scattering traction nuggets. While working, Deader in stocks mutters about frostbite. You rotate lantern for maximum heat radius. Small mercy. He thanks through chattering teeth, offering name of tavern owing him coin. An IOU intelligence deposit for committee. Mainstream scientific curiosity. In 1730s Edinburgh, physician James Hutton, later geology pioneer, recorded that exposure to street lamp heat reduced frostbite among night watch by 28%. Whether measurement trustworthy or anecdote remains contested. Surviving notebook edges burned, ironically, by lamp accident. Back to route. Flames now flicker amber blue, sign of ideal combustion. You pat insulated flask like loyal hound. But oil nearly gone, the thick stuff lasts less, ironically. You ration final ounces for last 3 lamps near Clockmaker Row. Their gears tick behind frost-etched windows. Horologist thanks you for steady light, enabling him to regulate pendulum viscosity. Yes, even clocks feel cold. Final 2 lamps guard cathedral stairs. Snow drifts waist-high. You repurpose ladder as plow, shoving path for midnight mass attendees. Inside cathedral, a lone bell tolls Compline. Vibrations rolling like warm soup. You light both lamps, noticing they reflect golden against carved saints now hooded in snow beards. Some parishioners crossing court bless you. Others just hurry. Journey back downward tests knees on icy slope. Ladder sleds afoot. You dig heels, manage descent. Depot appears, windows emitting amber friend glow. Inside, Rox logs 1 cracked glass, modest oil overage, commends sheepskin trial. Slips you cinnamon twig as thanks, spice expensive, warming when chewed. Small but heartfelt. Before dismissal, He announces new policy. Extra 1 penny cold differential for nights where temperature dips below wine freezes. Nobody owns thermometer, so standard test will be leaving glass of red on windowsill. Oily skin forms when near freezing. Science leaps. Outside, dawn paints snow lavender. Your breath no longer steams. Maybe nerves thaw by proximity to pillow. On bridge, river chunks of ice clink like coins. You imagine each a shilling ode to lamplighters by future where gaslights hum and gloves include warm wires. For now, cinnamon on tongue and sheepskin on flask count as progress. Garrett greets you with still damp hat perched on chair. You hang gloves near stove, crawl beneath blankets wearing socks and cinnamon smile. Brain replays crystalline cityscape. Winter's harsh, but when lamps carve gold paths through blue snow, darkness looks almost ashamed of itself. Sleep slides in gently. Dreams swirl with snowflakes shaped like lantern crowns. Moths wearing scarves. Historians gathered around brazier arguing whether dogs pulled oil carts. You wake once, mid-dream, to tuck blanket tighter and mumble, "Tell them to add salt." Then drift deeper, leaving winter outside to gnaw on rooftops while your lamps stand watch. Warm cores beating like tiny hearths against the chill. Spring escapes the city like a pickpocket with a head start, leaving you to stumble straight into the thick, breath-holding heat of early July. Cobblestones ooze tarry sweat, gutters ferment yesterday's fish guts, and every second-story privy seems convinced that aiming is optional. Tonight you discover why the guild calls the stretch of the calendar the stench shift, whispered with the same resignation monks reserve for mandatory fasts. Your route card, already curling from humidity, assigns you the waterfront markets, Slaughterhouse Row, and 3 lanes whose only commodity appears to be compost in denial. Quartermaster Rocks has swapped sheepskin-wrapped oil flasks for canvas canteens, the leather ones having gone rancid after absorbing whale oil fumes all last winter. He also distributes small linen masks soaked in vinegar, a nod to the half-remembered medical theory that sour vapors repel foul humors. You tie one over nose and mouth, tasting pickled sharpness. Breathing through salad dressing will be a theme. Lamp gear needs a seasonal overhaul first. Whale oil thins in the heat, running like gossip and just as hard to control. You spend afternoon in depot yard mixing sand into a bucket of lye and ash. Improvised scouring paste for glass panes now lacquered with half a year's soot. Yuta demonstrates swirl and rinse technique. Suds sluice black streaks onto flagstones, forming abstract art no patron would pay for. Better vision, fewer insect funerals, she says, wiping brow. Already, horseflies orbit your arms, lured by salt. Mainstream knowledge drop. Historical ledgers from Amsterdam, 1731, show city fathers increasing lamp cleaning frequency from monthly to fortnightly during the warm season because smoke particles gum to hot glass, dimming output by as much as 30%. Whether that figure came from scientific photometers or aldermen squinting after gin remains scholarly dispute. Either way, cleaning crews doubled, and so did municipal complaints about water barrels breeding mosquitoes. Tools prepped, you venture dockside just as sunset bruises sky. Air hangs heavy as damp wool over stove. First lantern sits above a heap of cod heads awaiting morning trundles to glue works. The smell could raise the dead and convince them to invest in nose plugs. You climb ladder, but sweat greases gloves, and your palm skids off rung. Heart spikes. Quick correction, silent oath. From belt you unhook rag soaked in chalk dust, improvised rosin to dry hands. Up again. Reservoir half full. With oil now almost syrupless, you must pour sparingly or risk overflow drizzle onto patrons below, anointing them in ode to whale. Flame catches on first spark thanks to summer's gift. Bone-dry wick. No coaxing breath required. Yet you notice flame blooms higher than usual. Thin oil sometimes flashes up chimney vent violently. You trim wick shorter. Jot note for committee. Summer viscosity raises flare risk. Historians of occupational safety may one day quote that. Descending ladder, you gag as heat wafts cod bouquet upward. Linen vinegar mask barely holds line. A sailor nearby pinches nose and advises sprinkling would ash over pile. Old wharf trick to mute stink. You toss handful from bucket. Ash damps odor a notch. Quirky fact you'd forgotten. Wood ash chemically neutralizes trimethylamine, the molecule behind rotting fish smell. Science still decades away from naming it, but sailors' no-noses don't lie. Lamp 4 stands outside tannery vats. Workers stir hides in urine liquor, ammonia fumes slamming you like open hand slap. Vinegar mask rebels. Eyes water. You consider retreat, but wages call. Climbing through yellow vapor feels like scaling invisible outhouse. Up top, glass pane fogged inside by greasy film. You scrape, then discover colonies of maggots thriving on congealed soot and oil mix. Tiny white threads wiggle indignantly. Quick shake sends them plopping into vat below. Circle of Life, Artisanal Edition. Historians still argue whether lamplighters inadvertently accelerated urban pest spread by dropping such passengers. Anecdotal diaries accuse you all, while entomology treatises remain politely silent. Heat pushes you onward to Butcher's Arcade, where lanterns hang low so tripe hawkers can slice under their glow. Here stench graduates from fishy ammoniac to coppery blood tang. Flies strafe every surface, you keep mouth shut tight. One butcher, apron resembling abstract painting, asks you to tilt lamp forward, says customers avoid shadowy offal. You oblige. He pays with hunk of cold roasted bone marrow wrapped in cabbage leaf, protein for road, if you don't mind lacing it with vinegar aroma. Halfway through route sweat has filled gloves, squelching with every pole twist. You slip them off, ring out, shudder. Wish list now includes perforated summer gloves or, better, a job issuing weather complaints from shaded office. Instead, you knot gloves through belt loops to dry and risk barehanded climbs. Wood grain prickles palms like tiny sparks. You decide splinters beat steam bath. Mainstream side note. Paris in 1760 experimented with glass chimneys vented upward to reduce insect infiltration and limit summer flare-ups. Contemporary engineer Jacques Cazot claimed design cut mosquito deaths in lamps by 50%. Critics countered it doubled glass breakage under heat. Scholars continue to duel via footnotes, trading data versus anecdotes. Tonight your older lanterns wear no such fancy crowns. Insects perform bacchanals around open vents. Lamp 10 marks border of cheese row, storied for pungent wheels aging under awnings. Heat amplifies aroma until air tastes like melted socks. A rat the size of a nursery rhyme scampers across your boot, probably drunk on whey runoff. You'd sprint if ladder wasn't already pitched. While lighting, you remember rumor that some cheesemongers deliberately bribed lamplighters to dim glow, believing shadows deepened mystery of their rinds. Economics of olfactory marketing? You decline extortion offers and keep brightness honest. City Watch pays better than free cheese. Round the corner onto Night Soil Lane. Carts lined with barrels of human waste bound for fields. Drivers whistle jaunty airs that do nothing to hide bouquet of civilization. Your ladder foot sinks slightly into soft sludge border. Curses muffled by vinegar mask. Snuffer slips from belt. You grab just in time, but tip of boot now sports unspeakable varnish. Consider burning footwear at shift end. Historical tidbit. During London's hot summer of 1858, the Great Stink, Parliament nearly evacuated until engineers doused Thames with chloride of lime. Your era lacks chemical cavalry, so you soldier on. Near Lantern 15, you spot Yuta across way, swatting at hornets mesmerized by her flame. She employs secret weapon. Pouch of dried lavender thrown onto reservoir lip, creates aroma hornets dislike. You trade roasted bone marrow chunk for a sprig. Under your next lamp, lavender smolders with oil, releasing perfume that almost masks barrel effluvium. Two passersby comment on fragrance. You pocket idea for Guild's value-add docket. Heat now warps horizon. Distant cobbles shimmer like fish scales. Sweat rivulets etch path through soot on forearms. You pause at fountain, splash face. Note that water smells rather like bronze coins. Better than the competition. There, a constable complains thieves use busy summer night markets to pick pockets by odor distraction. He asks you to tilt several lamps away from stalls toward alleys to eliminate shadow cover. You log request. Performing it will cost merchants glare, but reduces petty crime. Ethical calculus joins cowhide smell in head soup. Midshift meal happens perched on warehouse stoop. Stale bread dipped in marrow, washed with flask water gone lukewarm. Flies attempt takeover. You guard provisions with wick trimmer brandished like saber. Culinary score, human 1, Diptera 0. Past midnight the heat refuses to ebb, sticky as spilled molasses. Lantern 30 hangs above fish market gutters now filled with fermenting brine. Here, stench is so powerful it overrides vinegar mask entirely, punching palate until tongue dreams of mint. You recall old stevedore claim that chewing coffee grounds cuts odor. Pocket holds none, but you find leftover cinnamon twig from winter bonus. Bite. Mouth ignites spicy distraction. Nose thanks you. Quirky scientific rumor. 17th century physicians advised clenching clove between teeth while navigating plague pits. Clove shares eugenol oil with cinnamon, mild antiseptic. Whether it prevented disease or simply masked the smell is academic argument unresolved. Journals cite both sides in fragrant debate. Lamp 33 faces open sewer arch bioluminescent slime glows faint green along waterline. Eerie twin to your orange flame. You study it fascinated. Nature's rival lamplighter. You jot. Sewer algae self-lit. Potential cost savings? Note likely to terrify treasury and delight alchemists. Toward docks you find barrels of ambergrease. Whale intestinal treasure. Awaiting perfumers. Irony. Foul lumps inside smell sweet. Merchant lets you sniff freshly cut chunk. Aroma of warm bread and sea salt. You muse how same whale supplies oil for lamps and scent to mask everything lamps reveal. Circle loops, nothing wasted except maybe the whale's patience. Sudden shout, fight by tavern door. Two traders quarrel over eel shipment freshness. Blows traded, one brandishes broken bottle. You swing pole between them. Lantern hook clanging glass loudly. Distraction enough. Constable intervenes. Intensity dissipates. You relocate lamp angle to flood doorway. Bright shame cools hot heads. Chalk up another illumination intervention for committee's ledger. Historian bicker sentence. Experts still debate whether heightened street lighting directly reduced violent crime or merely displaced it. Some late 1700s statistics show assaults moved indoors where lamps couldn't pry. Tonight you witness exterior argument diffused, interior unknown, data ambiguous as always. By 2:30, sweat has dried into flaky salt map on brow. Thirst gnaws. You siphon water from public pump. Praying upstream apprentices didn't dunk hides. Cold hits stomach like a blessing with questionable aftertaste. Final leg climbs old city wall walk, where breeze, finally, stirs. Air carries mixed bouquet of hay, tar, and distant cinnamon bark burning in bakery. Less rotten, more nostalgic. You light wall-top lanterns in quick succession, each one sending beam across Saline Harbor. Ships at anchor answer with lantern wink codes, signaling cargo status perhaps. You envy their sea breeze. Oil flask near empty, but you calculated right. Last lamp at watchtower drains final drops with flourish. Spark blooms, wick hisses, glass squeals as heat meets bug corpses stuck to pane. You wipe, step back, admire symmetrical glow. Route done. Depot arrival finds lamplighters discarding masks soaked brown from vinegar and grime. Rocks tallies cracked glass count. Surprisingly low, thanks to shorter wicks, and measures oil savings. Thinner oil spilled less but burned faster, net usage same. He shrugs municipal shoulders. He does. However, sniff the lavender perfume lingering on your coat. Innovation. You nod and recite hornet repellent anecdote. He scribbles. Lavender additive trial. Promises halfpenny bonus if council approves. Not fortune, but the city might smell marginally like Provence instead of cod. Outside, pre-dawn sky blurs persimmon. Heat still hums, but wind greets cheeks cooler. You unlace vinegar mask, inhale less murderous air, detect faint lavender undertone. Victory. Home requires detour to river edge. You rinse boots of night soil gloss, toss soap sliver in tribute to sanitation gods. In garret, you hang gloves above window, hoping breeze chooses mercy. Candle stub replaced by saucer of vinegar to neutralize room odor. A tip from market herbalist. You collapse onto straw, limbs buzzing like flies you battled. Dreams drift into carnival of scents. Lavender dancing with ammonia, cinnamon flirting with whale oil, ambergris refereeing. Lamps march in parade, each puffing colored smoke. Green for algae, blue for vinegar, gold for marrow. Historians along parade route wave scrolls arguing footnotes about odor abatement. But parade keeps moving under your command. You wake once at dawn to whiff lavender still ghosting room, smile and plummet back into sleep, confident that for one sticky summer night, stench surrendered, at least where your lamps kept watch. Night settles like a giant ink blot over the city, and before the stains dry you're summoned to an arrangement best described as shared custody of the dark. The watch captain, a barrel-chested man who smells of wet leather and bureaucratic confidence, has decided every lamplighter should shadow a patrol so the constables can borrow your glow the same way children borrow crayons, with great enthusiasm and zero intent to return them promptly. Rox calls it community synergy. You call it free flashlight rental. You meet your assigned duo at the south gate. There's Pike, whose mustache could sweep chimneys, and Daniel, young enough that his breastplate still squeaks when he inhales. Pike hands you a regulation truncheon, just in case, and immediately confiscates it again after realizing you might hit the invoice clerk rather than a thief. Instead you're issued an official sash yellow fraying to mark you as auxiliary luminary, 3rd class. Congratulations. You're now a walking street lamp with a title nobody can pronounce after 2 Alish. First beat, Parchment Square. Your newly polished lantern throws a polite halo ahead of the patrol. Merchants finishing ledgers appreciate the extra lumens. Pike appreciates not tripping over loose cobbles. You appreciate having someone else carry the ladder for 3 glorious minutes. Balance restored. Until Daniel chases a stray dog, shouting about rabid menace. Dog bolts under a cart. Daniel follows. Cart overturns sack of flour that settles across your flame like sugared fog. You douse sparks, trim wick, reignite. Pike glares. If your light were steadier, lad here wouldn't have spooked. Fault lines, it seems, run straight through logic. Historians still argue whether early night watch reports exaggerated lamplighter errors to mask their own clumsiness, or if lamplighters truly caused half the mayhem. Surviving paperwork edits itself depending on who held the quill. Onward to Coinway Lane where shutters chatter with gossip. A footpad darts from alley, purse in fist. Pike barrels after him, bellowing, "Stop! In the name of the crown and credible bookkeeping." You angle lantern to flood passage, momentarily blinding the thief just enough for Pike to tackle. Victory, until purse owner emerges claiming dropped coins rolled into gutter because your too bright flare startled him. You resist urge to measure complaint in decibels rather than shillings. Quirky docket note. Some 18th century German towns experimented with 2-tone lantern glass, amber above, clear below, to soften glare. Prototypes disappeared after citizens declared them unnatural dawn. Academic committees are still debating whether the project failed for optical or political reasons. Mid-shift, patrol stops at Brewster's Archdaniel jots infractions, while Pike borrows your pole hook to nudge sleepy vagrants from doorway. One thanks you for light that kept pickpockets away. Another curses Flame for revealing hiding spot from debt collectors. Same glow, opposite verdicts. You start to grasp why watch ledgers list lamp interference under both aids and obstructions. Mainstream fact break. By 1724 London's Charitable Watch Act formally required lamplighters to accompany constables during high-crime festivals. Wages footed by parish tithes. Whether crime rates fell is murky. Some ledgers show 12% drop. Others claim thieves simply shifted to unescorted wards. Scholars trade footnotes like duelists trade jabs, each insisting margin of error shadows the truth. On Dockmaster Pier, moon hides behind warehouse roofs, and your lantern becomes sole star. 2 smugglers haul crates. Pike demands inspection. They stall, hoping Flame dies. You feel wick falter, oil nearly out. Quick twist of trimmer, smaller but sharper flame sparks back. Smugglers blink, options shrink. Bribes jingle then vanish when Pike claps irons. Captain later credits excellent municipal lighting in his report. Your name appears only in margin. Lantern bearer consumption moderate. Like spice in stew, acknowledged yet unsung. Near dawn, patrol circles to Jail Street where prisoners pound on bars begging, more dark. less watch. Daniel has you shine lamp into cells, proclaiming deterrence. You can't help noticing shadows exaggerate iron bars, making the place look more hellish than merciful. You log mental note for committee. Light can heighten terror as much as safety. Philosophers one day will duel semicolons over that. When roster ends, Pike signs chit verifying your cooperative compliance. He keeps your ladder longer than strictly necessary, returning it only after you remind him oil must be replenished before sunrise or audit quills sprout. He winks, claims it fell under evidence handling. Depot welcomes you with tepid tea and Rox's raised eyebrow at soot-stained sash. He scans patrol note, grunts approval of 0 broken glass, then deducts halfpenny for unauthorized ladder loan. You protest. He gestures to rulebook where margin scribble reads, "Never trust constables with company property. We pay the fine." Apparently history, like ladders, is what people lean on when balance slips. Back in Garrett, you collapse thinking of fault lines. Between light and dark, safety and fear, lamplighter and lawman. You lit the paths that judged both thief and constable yet got billed for the privilege. Scholars will bicker forever about causality, but you're too tired to litigate philosophy. You just know tomorrow night they'll need your lantern again, and when shadows misbehave, blame will travel the beam back to the hand that holds the pole. Your pulse drums a double-time cadence long before the cathedral bells announce sunrise, because rumor says tomorrow isn't just any feast day. It's the Jubilee of St. Wenceslas, who isn't actually your town's patron, but try telling that to the treasury. Translation: 1 royal parade, 3 military bands, assorted guild floats, and enough ceremonial torches to roast an ox while it still thinks it's grazing. City fathers want every street blazing, as bright as second dawn. And that order, naturally, starts with you. By mid-morning the depot resembles a beehive into which someone tossed fireworks. Rox, hat askew, reads from scroll. Triple burn schedule, reflectors polished to mirror, all cracked glass replaced. No excuses, no shortcuts. He points to map stabbed with colored pins marking every lamp along parade route. Each pin carries tiny parchment flag indicating oil allowance, flame height, and, occasionally, sparker's discretion, code for improvise or pray. You're assigned the grand processional loop, a serpentine circuit through boulevards normally polite, but tomorrow destined to host half the kingdom's nobility and all its perfume. Equipment list expands correspondingly. 2 extra flasks of spermaceti oil, prized for bright, clean burn, newly silvered reflectors, spare copper chimneys, and a 3-wick prototype rumored to blind pigeons at 20 paces. Sibbo grins, juggling a flask. "We're basically mobile fireworks," she says. You nod, trying to ignore your ladder's sudden weight gain. First task, reflector polishing. Betch the grinder passes out soft leather squares infused with jeweler's rouge. You buff until brass backsides gleam like captive suns. Sweat paints spirals and rouge dust across sleeves, turning you into abstract art. Rox inspects each surface, scowls at fingerprints, breathes on glass pane, swipes once more. The Duke expects his profile reflected in every lamp, he mutters. You picture aristocratic nose mirrored across town. Mainstream knowledge footnote. By early 18th century, several European capitals adopted parabolic reflectors, copper or silver, inside street lamps to multiply effective brightness. London's Christopher Pack patented a version in 1730. Some historians credit it with slashing night crime, others argue it merely dazzled watchmen into writing optimistic reports. Debate continues like a candle stub that refuses to die. Afternoon brings supply wagon from Naval Storehouse. Barrels branded SPR MCT, pure spermaceti, semi-solid at room temperature. Mirwin explains it's distilled from sperm whale head cavities and costs more than half a lamplighter's yearly wage per gallon. Treasury agreed because jubilees accrue divine interest. You translate. They want heaven's spotlight on their ledger. Melting spermaceti into pourable form requires braziers. Heat rises, mixing with summer humidity. Depot turns sauna. You and Sibbo ladle viscous pearl fluid into flasks, mesmerized by mother-of-pearl sheen. Smell faintly sweet, a welcome change from winter's fishy funk. Quirky aside, 1740 Boston tax records list spermaceti-scented candles as luxury imports, implying colonists used whale brains to mask revolution brewing. Scholars still argue if taxation of tallow versus spermaceti nudged political tinder. Economics through illumination. Evening rehearsal time. You lug ladder to mock-up lamp outside forge. 3-wick head screws in where single once sat. You pour shimmering oil, trim wicks, strike flint. Flame erupts like sunrise crammed into glass jar. Blinding, hot. Forge apprentice claps. Horses in nearby alley shy. You jot caution. Possible equine panic. Nobody wants stampede under royal balcony. Night before parade. Route walkthrough with city architect. Serge coat lined in maps. He dictates lamp spacing. Every 20 paces lit. Arches twinned. Fountains crowned with copper torches for symmetry. You follow, marking numbers on slate. Architect insists reflectors angled to bounce light onto bunting. Showcasing embroidered saints. You suggest 5-degree tilt for glare control. He dismisses, saints don't squint. Historians one day will debate whether urban planners or lamplighters understood optics better. Tonight, you suspect saints sided with you. Dawn of Jubilee arrives wrapped in horns and drumrolls. The city hums, windows bloom with silk banners, street vendors roast almonds whose sugar smoke battles early horse dung aroma. Depot crew lines up for oil issue. Rocks reads temperatures. Heat means oil thins. Risk of flare. Adjust wicks down. You tug leather gloves, summer version with vent holes, loop ladder, shoulder flasks. Set out. First lamp outside Guildhall already sports garlands of roses. You climb carefully, sliding petals aside, fearing one spark could flambe floristry. Reservoir filled, triple wicks trimmed short. Light ignites, searing bright but contained. Glass warms quickly. You test with spit sizzle, hot yet safe. Below, seamstresses cheer. Roses glow crimson, mission accomplished. Parade not due for hours, but crowds gather. City watch erect rope barriers. You weave through using lamplighter badge as magic key. Next lamp set, and next, chain of miniature suns forging golden river down boulevard. You pause to survey. Reflectors bounce, overlapping halos, turning cobbles to gilt mosaic. Pride muscles past fatigue. Mid-morning crisis. A baker's float. A giant pastry replica. Parks under lamp you just lit. Sun plus triple flame threatens frosting meltdown. Bakers plead. Architect nowhere. You improvise. Attach copper chimney extension. Redirect heat upward. Steam curls harmless. Bakers hand you honey cruller. Crisis and breakfast both resolved. Mainstream anecdote. During 1755 Lisbon Festival, overzealous lamp placement ignited silk awning, torching arcade. City subsequently issued FOJO directive limiting lamp wattage within 10 feet of textiles. Whether directive stems from safety or textile merchant lobbying remains contested in Portuguese archives. You file mental note. Propose similar code before next Jubilee. Noon approaches. Drums thump. Rooftops throng with spectators. Your ladder now part of parade furniture. Watch orders you to shadow lead float, tweaking lamps ahead of royal carriage. Sweat rivers inside waistcoat. Sunlight challenges your flames, but spermaceti's brightness keeps pace, casting crisp shadows even at midday. Royal carriage appears, gilded doors, Duke waving glove like metronome for cheers. As he passes each lamp, you see his profile indeed reflected. Rocks would be smug. Duke's horse snorts at brightness but marches. Good. Tilt compromise working. Suddenly cannon salute booms from Riverside Fortress. Shockwave gust extinguishes 2 lamps near statue of Saint Wenceslas. Gasps ripple. Without thinking, you vault ladder from shoulder, plant legs wide, climb fast. Crowd hush. You trim wicks, spark flint, nothing. Wind stole oxygen. Try again, shield flame with hat brim. Spark catches. Lamp flares alive. Cheers erupt. Second lamp repeats. Total delay. 30 seconds. Royal procession barely slows. You descend to applause that tastes better than cruller. But cannon salute ripples continue, swirling dust into lamp chimneys. You foresee pattern. Every blast may smother flames. Roving fix-it mode engaged. You jog ahead. Instruct assistant lamplighter, young Bruce, to trail behind and monitor. Bruce nods, eyes huge. Halfway point near University Square. Students draped in laurels ignite Greek letters on banners using turpentine. Fire snakes across cloth, whoosh. Heat drafts aim toward lamp 20. You sprint, unhook snuffer bell, cap flame temporarily to starve oxygen. Banner fire subsides courtesy bucket brigade. You relight lamp, glare at students. They chant apologies in Latin. Committee note: educational pyrotechnics hazard. Quirky festival trivia. Some Italian cities hired professional lamp supervisors, separate from lamplighters, to manage parade pyros. Early gig economy. Scholars still ponder whether specialization improved safety or simply spread blame like butter. Parade endgame. Cathedral Plaza. Hundreds gather for blessing. Clergy carry monstrance encrusted with gems needing sparkle. Bishop's steward whispers desperate request. Raise flame on 3 central lamps higher for jewel scintillation. You warn of flare risk. Steward insists. You compromise. Swap to clear glass chimneys without frost coating, gaining brightness without extra wick. Gems glitter. Bishop's smile could sanctify budgets. Trumpets blare final fanfare. Pigeons, distracted by shiny reflectors, dart low, but heat plumes waft them skyward unharmed. Last cannon booms, your lamps hold steady. Parade complete. After crowd disperses, dusk rushes in. Triple burn schedule continues. You must trim again before night proper. Oil flasks now half empty. Rock's authorized bonus reserves hidden in alley barrels. You locate one, siphon with funnel, top wicks. Night falls with festival hangover. Spent confetti, candle stubs, drunks singing off-key madrigals. Spectators now depend on your fire to stumble home. And here comes twist. Roof thatch embers from midday pyros finally decide to smolder. At town archivist row you spot orange wink on eve. You hammer door, no answer. You position ladder on balcony, climb roof pitch steeper than tax code. Lantern serves as scout light, you locate glowing patch. Using snuffer bell like scoop, you bat embers into snow-soaked rag, saved from winter. Smoke curls then quits. Roof saved. Descend shaky, greeted by archivist in nightcap brandishing quill like sword. He thanks with dusty scroll-tied ribbon. Inside later you'll find weather records. Nice but heavy. Historians' future will debate. Did lamplighter vigilance prevent post-festival firestorm comparable to London's 1666? Or were city builders just using fireproof tile? You know answer. Vigilance matters because tiles can't climb ladders. Route concludes at riverfront where fireworks finale scheduled. You station atop stone pier, ensuring lamps align so crowd sees pyrotechnics without tripping off quay. Fireworks erupt. Chrysanthemums, peonies, comets. Your lamps echo colors on ripples. For a moment, natural and artificial stars collaborate. Then unexpected, mis-angled rocket lands on barge roof coated with pitch. Sparks. Tiny flame grows. Crowd shrieks. Fire brigade delayed upstream. You sprint across gangplank, dragging ladder. Bruce behind with spare flask. You climb mast, pour thin film of spermaceti along edge. Not to fuel, but to create slick barrier. Oil flows then solidifies as cooler air hits, starving fire of grip. Bruce tosses bucket. Splash extinguishes. Applause from shoreline. Fireworks continue unabated. The show must go on. Midnight tolls. Triple burn lamps still fierce, but fuel low. You debate rationing. Decide parade route deserves full light until revelers disperse. You'll accept overtime charge, trusting committee negotiation later. Depot at 2 a.m. resembles battlefield triage. Cracked wicks, soot-black faces, empty flasks. Rocks tallies. Oil overage, predictable. He squares shoulders, stamps festival allowance line, waiving penalties. Hands each lamplighter silver groat bonus. Weight sings in palm. He also posts note. Council requests written account of parade safety interventions for Royal Chronicle. You smirk. Scribes will clip your deeds into footnotes attributing success vaguely to municipal readiness. But guild petition will include them in bold. Trudge home and pass St. Wenceslas statue now lit like marble sun god. Reflector shows your soot-smudged face. Behind bags under eyes you glimpse pride. Parade ended. Rooftops intact. Bishop's gems gleamed. Horses unpanicked. Lights did their job and so did you. Garrett silent except for scribble of quill as you log interventions in committee ledger. Cannon extinguish hazard. Frosting meltdown fix. Banner fire suppression. Roof ember elimination. Barge rescue. 5 data points. Sleep tries to interrupt. You finish sentence. Finally drop onto mattress. Groat tucked under pillow next to scroll gift. Dreams erupt as fireworks repeating but slower. Each burst spelling letters. BRIGHT. Ladders sprout wings. Lamps tilt hats. Historians loop below arguing but fireworks drown them. When you wake tomorrow, throat will taste of sulfur and honey cruller, but memory will taste like captured daylight danced across wood and stone. And perhaps somewhere a pigeon tells younger pigeon's story of tiny suns that outshone noon itself, thanks to the fool with ladder and courage enough to pour liquid pearl into glass and call it good. The city wakes coughing. Not the dainty throat clearing you hear after a night of overenthusiastic shanties, but the deep, rattling kind that writes obituaries before the ink hits the page. It's early autumn, 1709, and word slithers through alleys that black pustule fever, plague's grimmer cousin, has slipped past the harbor quarantine. 2 sailors died in customs shed. 3 dock porters collapsed. And now the magistrates dangle big red X boards on any door where a sneeze echoes too long. You, unfortunately, still have to keep the lamps lit so everybody can read those quarantine signs. Congratulations, you're promoted to essential worker. Centuries before the phrase shows up in union bylaws. You receive the news at the depot, where Rox waves a parchment order sealed with 3 different councils' wax blobs, as though bureaucracy thinks more wax equals more authority. The edict. Lamplighters must alter routes to avoid infected zones, yet somehow ensure every corner remains illuminated to discourage looting, panic, and late-night corpse snatching. You stare at the map. Half your usual ladder dance steps just became illegal. It's like being told to bake a pie while the oven door is nailed shut. Rox issues new gear. A sprig of dried wormwood tied to your collar, folk deodorant for evil vapors, a vial of vinegar infused with rosemary for wiping hands, and a wooden clacker, 2 boards on a hinge, to announce your approach so citizens can scurry inside. You test the clacker. The crack echoes like a judge's gavel. Sibbo snorts. By the time they hear that, they'll slam shutters harder than gossip slams dignity. Mainstream history moment. During the London Plague of 1665, bell ringers and searchers carried clappers at night to warn people away. Some diaries praise the system. Others call it terror on stilts. Historians still argue whether the racket reduced contagion or merely spiked insomnia. 2 schools, both sleepless. You're also issued a pale yellow sash stamped with black crossbones. It's supposed to grant free passage through cordons, but also paints a target on your back. Anyone who sees it knows you've been skulking round hot zones. The sash smells like lye soap and municipal fear. First night under quarantine tastes metallic. Watchmen nail red X boards on doors. Doctors in crow-beaked masks waft clouds of burning juniper. Carts creak past with shrouded forms. You pivot your route, snaking between barricades of wine barrels stacked across side streets. At each checkpoint, constables wave you through, one eye on your flask, the other on your pulse. Lamps become beacons for frightened households who hang white cloth from windows begging for bread deliveries. Sometimes you linger an extra moment, angling reflector so a mother can read her scriptures or a surgeon can examine boils. Cold fact, warm edge. Venetian ports in the 17th century forced arriving ships to anchor 40 days. Quaranta giorni, birthing the term quarantine. Your city borrows the policy but trims it to 20 because merchants complain 40 costs too much. Economists will bicker forever whether that thrift doubled the death toll. Ledgers burn, opinions survive. Halfway along Routeless Lane, formerly Taylor's Row, you spot a quarantined house. Door nailed, window chalked with skull, Candle burning behind panes in silent SOS. Family light is dying. Your street lamp is the nearest glow they'll see for weeks. You steady ladder, climb, and trim wick razor sharp so flame won't gutter. You could swear the candle inside flares, hopeful, as though light breeds courage through brick. Weird anecdote for the night. Pamphlet hawked at the bridge claims sniffing crushed emerald powder prevents plague. Price: 1 guinea per sniff. You pass the hawker later. He's wearing emerald-pleated mask and sweating fear. Science hasn't weighed in, largely because scholars are busy measuring distances between coffins, but you'd bet vinegar over gemstones any day. Down by Spice Market, barrels of pepper stand untouched, trade frozen. A rat gnaws burlap, pauses to glare at your clacker. You give it a snap. It scampers. Some folks blame rats. Others blame bad air. Historians decades from now will still duel footnotes over causation while microbes shrug invisible shoulders. Constables escort you through the dead lanes. Narrow alleys now silent except for distant hymn fragments. They refuse to enter. You proceed alone, ladder tapping cobbles like timid metronome. One lamp here has shattered, maybe stone, maybe feverish delirium. You replace glass, the clang echoing like church bells in miniature. When flame bursts, you notice something heartbreaking. A child's chalk drawing on wall, stick figures holding torch. You retie wormwood sprig, whisper promise to keep this corner bright. Wind shifts, charnel wagon rolls by, driver nods gratitude. Lamplight lets him tally dead without lifting shroud. You swallow bile. That's the thin line. Too little light, errors multiply. Too much, despair spreads. You realize you're balancing not just wicks, but the city's emotional dimmer switch. Debate flag. Some chroniclers insist nighttime plague death counts were underreported because lamplighters refused to approach carts. Others cite lamplighters' own logs, meticulous down to candle drips, proving presence at every grim inventory. Scholars quarrel over authenticity, forged ledgers or unfair slander. Somewhere in future library, your own soot-smudged notebook will tip scales, if mildew spares it. Close to docks, parrots in quarantine cages screech, "Bring back rum!" The ship they arrived on banned from unloading. You angle lanterns so sailors can change bandages without dropping tools. Captain offers coin. You refuse. Touching money from plague ship seems unwise even to optimists. He salutes your restraint with elbow bump. Past midnight, your stomach claws. Bread vendors gone. Taverns closed. Emergency kitchen ladles barley stew for essential workers. Recipe heavy on pepper and rumor. While you slurp, a preacher thanks you for holding back darkness more lethal than sin. High praise, low comfort, but you nod grateful. He hands minced garlic bulb, says chew each dawn. Vampires or bacteria, either way. Lamp 32 guards apothecary door where physician distills rose water into inhalers for the sick. He begs a brighter beam, says pupils dilate badly in fever. You swap standard wick for prototype broad tip, logging oil surcharge. He presses pamphlet into glove. Diagram of pulmonary blooms, tiny lungs inside lungs. You can't read Latin headings, but engraving of spiky spheres looks disturbingly familiar. Fatigue sets in near Scholars Hospice inside abandoned theater. Torchlines flicker inside balcony. Silhouettes of volunteers hauling straw pallets. A historian spots you, shouts question. How many lanterns still out near River Ward? You reply without thinking. For extinguished, 2 cracked. He scribbles onto scroll, even amid plague data collection marches on. Other historian on stage counters. But correlation between lamp density and mortality still unproven. An argument erupts. You step away, secretly glad academic sparring beats coughing chorus. Clouds roll, drizzle begins. Cleansing or carrier. You lift mask for breath. Vinegar tang comforts. Ladder splinters dig palms, but gloves hinder finger sensitivity. You alternate exposed grip, trade pain for precision. Last stretch. Barricaded fish quarter, officially black zone. Watchman halts you, eyes red from sleeplessness. Once in, gate shuts till dawn, he warns. Essential status doesn't include extraction privileges. You scan darkness, 3 lamps out, entire street in gloom. Hesitation tastes like iron. Then you nod, step through barrels. Gate slams. Silence, broken by distant cough. Stench thick, mix of salt and rot and fear. You clack warning. Shutters thud shut. First lamp. Reservoir bone dry. No one refilled since quarantine wall went up. You pour spermaceti, spark life. Tiny cheer sounded from second floor window. Maybe hallucination. Second lamp. Ladder foot slides on fish scales. You steady. Speak out loud to keep pulse steady. Spark. Flame, white glass. Sudden crash. Bucket dropped from rooftop. Splashes bile-colored water onto street. Narrowly missing you. You don't look up, rage won't disinfect. Third lamp sits beside shrine where someone left fresh apple and sprig of thyme. Offerings to plague saint. You leave them. They're doing no harm. Light blossoms, casting warmth on shrine. In that glow, red X on opposite door seems less like death warrant, more like warning flare begging rescue. Gate opens at dawn, watchman waves you out. He notes 3 new lights. Scribbles certificate of completion, hands you ration chit for extra loaf. City thanks you, he says, voice hollow. You nod, too drained to answer. Depot triage again. Rocks inspects gear with glove tongs, dumps vinegar over ladder rungs. Logbook expanded. Pages now include disease ward footnotes. He stamps hazard bonus, 2 shillings, and orders your sash burned. You don fresh one, wonder how many you'll go through. Back home, you leave boots outside, soak hands in rosemary vinegar, burn wormwood sprig in dish. Room fills with acrid smoke. You don't care. Maybe it kills fear germs infecting airways of imagination. You flop onto mattress still in trousers, clacker resting like wooden heartbeat at bedside. Before sleep, you jot committee line. Essential guardian of lamplight, essential guardian of morale. Historians may chew that phrase for centuries, debating whether morale truly affects mortality curves. Let them. You feel the proof in how families peeked through shutters at new-lit lamps and whispered, "Still hope. Lights can't cure fevers, but despair is a sickness of its own." And tonight you vaccinated entire blocks. You drift into uneasy dreams. Ladders sprout quarantine boards, lamps wear plague masks, and city pulses under red crescent moons. Yet each lantern glows steady, second by second, pushing back sickly shadows. In dream morning, bells peal victory, maybe illusion, maybe prophecy, but you cling to the idea like a wick clings to oil. Because tomorrow night, map or no map, you'll carve corridors of brightness through cordons again. And maybe that's enough until physicians catch breath and trade beaked masks for humble smiles. You wake to knuckles rapping your garret door in a rhythm too precise to belong to rent collectors or plague wardens. 3 short, 1 long, 2 middling, the tap pattern thieves use when they test windows before a job. You unlatch the bolt half curious, half annoyed, expecting Sibbo pulling a prank, and discover instead a gentleman so narrow he has to rotate sideways to fit the frame. His coat is deep bottle green velvet, cuffs spotless despite the city's best efforts, and a brass monocular dangles from breast pocket like a pet snake. He introduces himself, soft bohemian accent, as Her Dr. Fernelius of the Royal Society for Pleasingly Dangerous Curiosities. The title smells like fresh varnish and ambition. Before you can ask how he found you, he launches into dissertation. The Society is building a grand catalog of night flame behavior, color shifts, luminosity decay, glass heat stress, in hopes of proving once and for all that predictable optics can conquer both crime and commerce. They require field observers possessing, shall we say, intimate relations with the city's nocturnal photonic infrastructure. Translation: Lamplighters with decent eyesight and questionable sleep schedules. You remember outline in guild petition about monetizing your observations, and suddenly this lanky bohemian looks less like a nuisance and more like an advanced copy of the future. You invite him in, sweep straw from stool, brew subpar chicory. He produces a stack of pre-printed forms, each line a demand for numbers. Spark to sustain ignition time, wick taper angles in degrees, chromatic variance against backdrop of moist brick. You blink. The only angle you track is whether ladder foot meets cobble at something less suicidal than 45 degrees. Still, you sense opportunity. Data might buy leverage at next council stare-down. By noon you're in Depot Courtyard with Fernelius, rocks, Utah, and 4 boxes of gear. Tinted glass slides etched with millimeter grids, small brass sextant for lamp-to-lamp triangulation, a portable Newtonian prism, and a leather-bound notebook pre-indexed by color swatches. Rocks grumbles about schedule drift, but when Fernelius waves a purse bulging with silver thalers, even his ledger eyes twinkle. Agreement struck. 2 lamplighters, lucky you and unlucky mere win, will accompany the doctor for 7 nights, gathering optico-combustive particulars. Your hazard bonus doubles, your sleep debt triples. First night's test field is Scholar's Burrow because students burn every liquid that will hold a match. You'll get a gradient of soot densities. Fernelius unveils his secret weapon. A glass rod tipped with mineral that glows violet when heated. He calls it phosphor calx. He sketches experiment. Compare lamp's yellow to rod's violet to measure color temperature. A term that means nothing to you yet. He hands rod close to flame. Violet blushes. He pronounces number 1800 degrees of celestial ardor, and notes accordingly. You scribble lamp 12B. Yellow as bakery custard. Precision comes in flavors. Mid-route, a student half-pickled on cheap schnapps demands to borrow your ladder, so he can install democracy on roof. Fernelius records the request under exogenous interference variables. You deny loan. Student sulks. Moments later he tosses bucket of dishwater from window. It streaks through your flame, causing sudden color pop. Blue core, green halo. Fernelius squeals, calls it serendipitous quenching phenomenon. Sketches wildly. You log under idiot with bucket. Sometime near 2 bells. Doctor instructs you to remove reflector from lamp 24. Metal is scalding, so he loans you a pair of tongs tipped with ivory slabs. You juggle glowing brass plate, and he holds prism toward distant alley, splitting lamp light into rainbow smear on whitewashed wall. Reds fade first, blues linger. He claps like choir boy, exclaiming, proof that particulate soot occludes long wavelengths. You're busy shooing a stray cat from lapping spilled oil. Mainstream pinch of history. Isaac Newton's prism demonstrations are legend by now, but word hasn't filtered to every hinterland. You witness version 2.0 on city's backstreet, with whale oil instead of sunlight. Historians later will fight about whether lamplighters contributed practical data to optical theory. Tonight you etch your name messy pencil on soot-smudged forms, into that footnote. Night 2. Fernelius wants rooftops. You haul experimental kit up servants' stairwells, feeling each rung in calves. Plan. Place prism inside chimney vent, capture flame spectrum unobstructed. But chimney draft magnifies flame, nearly cremating prism. You yank it free, glass now hairline cracked. Doctor groans, then measures crack angle against star Polaris, claims discovery. Rapid thermal expansion reveals hidden flaws in crystal. You chalk it up to dumb luck but jot numbers anyway. Meanwhile guild politics crash the party in form of Iona and Boris, each clutching note demanding society pay licensing fee for exclusive lamp rights. Fernelius charms them with scientific babble, promises mention in published treatise. They retreat suspicious yet flattered. Later you ask why he balked at fee. He winks, citations cost nothing, my friend. During prism cooling, you test new 3-flame assembly with copper mesh re-rebreather cap, Fernelius's design. Idea: hot exhaust drawn back through mesh, reburning soot. Result: lamp shines pure white, but copper glows cherry and melts cage after 12 minutes. Spectacular failure. Scribbled under iteration 1 catastrophically exuberant. Still, you catch passersby smiling at whiteness before meltdown. Proof concept has legs, or wings made of molten metal. By midweek, data sheets stack like short novels. You've learned to estimate lamp brightness in Fernelian candles, count sparks per flint drag, and judge wick trim by hissing pitch. Doctor trusts your instincts, leaves instrument calibration to you while he drafts letter to society backers. Claims discovery of urban aurora, i.e., lamplight refracted through canal fog producing faint stripes overhead. You think he's exaggerating. Then one misty dawn you spot pale orange band across sky aligning exactly with your route line. Perhaps not exaggeration, just eyesight tuned by obsession. Quirky sidebar emerges. Doctor persuades bakery to loan you sack of wheat flour, orders you to dust air above lamp and observe spark-induced grain ignition. Flash cloud humps, startles geese. You extinguish quickly, but scorched flour smells like breakfast. Data. Fuel-air admixture dangerously artistic. City watch arrives. Doctor blames, controlled test. You talk them down by offering bright new lamp orientation to guardhouse free of charge. Diplomacy via lumens. Night 5. Plague barricades still loom but fever cases dropping. You use empty quarantine street as perfect dark lab. Doctor unfurls cloth screen. Projects lamp light through glass slide dotted with pinholes of varying diameters. On brick wall appears constellation map of scaled moons. Tiny disks brighter in center, dim on edges. He measures penumbral falloff, muttering about intensity inversely square to radius even in man-made stars. You crack knuckles, proud your calloused hands help birth math. Suddenly Sibo sprints in, warning. Council envoys inspecting cost overruns. They suspect you're burning premium spermaceti for science, not safety. She says Rox delays them by forging extra ledger columns. Lantern refurbish cycle. Line 20. You end experiment, swap premium oil for standard fish blend. Dr. Sniff test fails to detect difference. Council noses might. You trim wicks low, claim economy mode. Envoys pass, grumbling about faint fish odor. Nobody mentions prismatic footprints still drying on wall. Debate hook. Later historians may unearth these ledgers and wonder why Lamp 27's fuel type alternated nightly. One will posit corruption, another clandestine science. Your scribbles locked in Society Archive will reveal answer, if they survive mildew. Final night arrives with thundercloud nimbus. Doctor demands storm test. How do charges in air alter flame shape? You protest. Ladders in lightning fields equal suicide. He counters with copper rod topped by miniature lightning vane anchored beside lamp. Not on ladder. You set it up. Storm rumbles. Hair on nape lifts. First bolt splinters sky. Rod sings but lamp survives. Flames stretching into spearhead shapes. Doctor records silhouette series with charcoal on damp parchment. Each stroke a gasp as thunder echoes. Rain arrives, dousing everything except your adrenaline. Post-storm, streets hiss steam. Dr. Pat's equipment case like warhorse. You haul ladder, soaked but buzzing. He invites you to Society Hall next noon. Demonstration of findings before donors. Sibo overhears. Elbows. Wear waistcoat, polish boots. Maybe they'll pay per data point. At Hall, a refurbished ballroom reeking of mothballed ermine. You present. Donors row. Merchants, 1 bishop. 3 navy captains hunting brighter beacons. Doctor unfurls prism display. Lamplight through fog generator. Tavern pipe smoke. Forms ribbon arcs. Donors, ooh. He cites numbers. Flame peak at 1,830 F. Soot reduction 12.4%. Crime near lamps down 8%. Your quick scribble earlier. Bishop nods. Navy captains salivate at lighthouse potential. They sign purse. Funding quadrupled. Plus honorarium for lead nocturnal technician. That's you. Title longer than ladder. Press copyists jot. One corners you after show. Asks for human interest hook. You tell bucket incident. He laughs, scribbles hero of the hot custard glow into margins. Next day broadsheets laud society. Lamplighters mentioned in footnote smaller than printer's guilt. Still, guild committee receives copy. Yuta winks. Footnote outranks invisibility. Council, catching wind of donors' excitement, arranges meeting. Suddenly they covet innovative lamp efficiencies. Guild fears job cuts if triple flame copper cages render half routes obsolete. Debates ignite. Boris yells graphs. Iona brandishes melted mesh as cautionary sculpture. You, acting mediator, propose pilot zone. Integrate reflector prism combo with lamplighter oversight, extra wage, instead of replacement. Council begrudges but signs trial order. Fernelius departs for Vienna with crates of data, promises to publish 50 observations on urban constellations. Before leaving, He gifts you his first cracked prism. For when you need to remember, light is stubbornly multifaceted. It hangs in garret window, scattering dawn into rainbow flecks across straw. You climb into bed that morning richer by honorarium, heavier by responsibility, brain rattling with Latin phrases and inverse square whispers. Lids drift, and dream shows ladders transforming into telescopes, each rung degree mark, each lamp a star repositioned by your hand. Historians in Dream no longer argue. They trace constellations named Lamplighter's 10x and Custard's Serenade, credit footnotes to one who trimmed wicks and, by accident or design, trimmed darkness's claim over science itself. Rumor reaches you first as a hush. Coal gas is coming. The phrase blows in from the river like a cool draft between warehouse boards, passed from clerk to baker to barber until it drifts, fully formed, into the depot yard while you are halfway through polishing a reflector. 3 syllables, but they thud against your ribs harder than any ladder rung ever did. You finish the night's round on sheer habit, coaxing each flame alive as though nothing is changing. Yet every soft hiss of whale oil reminds you someone plans to replace it with a hiss of pipe. 2 days later, the whisper walks up wearing patent leather shoes. A sealed invitation, its wax the color of furnace soot, summons all stakeholders in the nocturnal economy to a demonstration at East Wharf. The guild argues. Boris declares boycott. Iona warns silence smells like surrender. You insist that knowledge trumps guesswork. So an evening dusk finds you and a delegation of soot-smudged colleagues threading through crowds toward the customs house, where a brass pipeline, polished to theater brightness, loops across the quay. 3 glass globes perch at its end like enormous crystal eggs, and barrels stamped coal gas. Volatile stand behind ropes that bristle with warning placards. Her Dr. Fernelius has returned from Vienna just to watch. Merchants lean on canes weighted with purse. City Watch lines up buckets as if expecting a conflagration large enough to baptize the moon. The chief engineer, Mr. Haldenby, steps onto a little stage draped in white muslin, waistcoat embroidered with flames as tiny and smug as his smile. He proclaims that one twist of a valve will make darkness concede the century. An assistant wheels a handle. A dry hiss snakes through iron. Haldenby lowers a taper. Blue light bursts inside the first globe, then spreads to the second and third, washing the quay in a strange, cold brilliance that makes every oil lamp look suddenly ill. Gaslight smells faintly of warm iron filings, not a breath of whale. People gasp. Jeweler flashes. An 8-year-old with sticky fingers squeals that the moon has moved downstairs. You fold arms and watch the tiny beads of moisture forming inside each globe. Water, a byproduct the pamphlets forgot to mention. Wind buffets the glass harder than it ever bullied your triple wicks. Shadows fall in stripes so sharp they look sliced with clerks' knives. Nothing is perfect. Back at the depot, Rox's shrug tries for calm, but his thumb keeps fretting the page corner of his ledger. The guild calls emergency council in smoke-stained subchamber B. Voices ricochet like marbles. Sabotage, strike, petitions, prayer. You argue for an honest trial, measure brightness, cost, hazard, and let numbers decide. Surprisingly, Haldenby agrees, perhaps hungry for more applause. For 3 nights, the pilot zone on your dock route becomes a checkerboard. Every second post converted to gas, the rest left to oil. You patrol with notebooks, manometers, prism, and more skepticism than sleep. Wind flaps hard the first night. The gas globes flicker with each gust while your whale oil flames barely twitch behind their chimneys. You tally 15 relights for Haldenby's attendance, 4 for lamplighters. Fernelius counts lumens. Gas wins at lamp center but drops to nothing faster than oil, leaving deep zebra bars perfect for pickpockets. Second night, a cold front smothers pressure. Gas flames shrink to blue beads while spermaceti keeps its chin high, though soot demands a mid-shift wipe. Third night, a sea fog rolls in. Gas turns the mist into a ghost lantern floating somewhere above street level, beautiful but useless. Your amber flames spear columns of clarity down to cobbles where sailors sort crates of herring by eye. Dockworkers mutter they prefer warmth you can see, not glare that makes brass buttons look sickly. You bundle results into charts. Fuel a third cheaper. Brightness a fifth higher at the sweet spot. Maintenance hours steeper. Leak risk unknown. You leave a copy at the council chamber, another with the Merchants' League, a third slipped under the door of the most gossipy broadsheet. Headlines scream new light not yet ready for old streets. And for a moment you feel the city tilt back toward caution. Haldenby responds with a rebuttal thick as cathedral stone, claiming your reflectors were freshly polished and his globes dulled from travel, promising future models that will scatter neither fog nor common sense. The council schedules an open hearing. Fishmongers complain the gas spooked their cats. A jeweler swears diamonds love the bluish glare. Plague ward nurses fear invisible leaks. The engineer waves a drawing of safety valves. When your turn comes, you do not condemn gas. You propose coexistence. Main boulevards for the new system once tested. Side lanes left to gild-kept oil until reliability proves itself. Moderation cells. The council adjourns to count votes and coin. Haldenby corners you in the corridor, voice sugared with opportunity, offering double wages and no ladders if you'll join the consortium as inspector. You ask for time. Back in the garret you weigh the cracked prism Fernelius gave you. Rainbow flecks still dance through the fracture. Against the brass key Haldenby dangled. You imagine Neeless nights and fat purses. Yet the prism's fractured colors keep returning to amber where the first flame lived. You draft a letter proposing a hybrid birth. Lamplighters trained to detect leaks, keep pilot lights alive, and patrol outages. Gas companies supplies mechanical schooling. Jobs not lost but translated. You send it to guild, council, consortium. Weeks later the notice pinned to the depot door is not a guillotine but a compromise. Full gas conversion for Pilot Boulevard, with lamplighters retained as line inspectors. Pay adjusted, ladders optional but still yours on festival nights. Half the crew retires on modest stipends. Rookies queue for pressure gauge lessons. The scheduled last night tour feels like walking your own wake and wedding at once. You carry a ceremonial pole lighter than any ladder yet heavier in nostalgia. A pouch with the depot's finest spermaceti, the same scent that once rose from polar seas and ledger pages. Merchant's Arch greets you first. Its old cage accepts oil gratefully, shines like brandy, and crowds murmur approval at gold instead of ghost. By the time you reach Chandler's Court, a tale of citizens follows. Some clutching ribbons for their children, some clutching memories of deals closed under amber glow. A brass capsule waits in brickwork beside the very first city gas standard, ready for relics. You slip in lavender sprig, broken tally stick, shard of reflector, cracked prism. A child adds a cherry-red marble caught in your beam last month. Rocks seals the lid, mortars over the date. Future diggers may think it treasure or puzzle. Either would please you. Only the lonely riverside lamp remains. You pour the final oil, light it, let wind steady. As watchers breathe in, you cap flame with the snuffer you first polished years ago. Darkness folds gently. Applause rolls like tide. Your shoulders lose a burden you never knew you carried until its absence tingles. Dawn photographs you on cathedral steps, brass valve key in hand, prism catching sunrise in pocket, soot still painting collar tips. An emblem of hinge times. The council's speech calls it illumination without exhaustion. You keep silent about the kind of exhaustion that hides behind knees after 50,000 rungs. But your smile is real. Change doesn't always spell erasure, sometimes merely translation. Your first night as inspector passes without a single climb. You walk valve circuits, ears tuned for hiss, nose for tar. At midnight a thunderstorm claws pressure. A globe gutters out. You jog, twist regulator, relight pilot with portable igniter. Glow returns before anyone stumbles. Nobody cheers, which is, you realize, the best applause. Guardianship thrives on invisibility. You hang the key beside the retired snuffer bell, 2 punctuation marks ending different clauses. You strike a private candle. Watch prisms scatter flecks across ceiling like tiny petrol arcs. Ledger opens to a fresh page. Gas stable, 1 leak, ambient mood colder monitor. In the street below, mixed light paints bricks in overlapping spectra. Amber still lurking in edges where gas saturation falters. Different tools, same promise. Someone awake, someone watching. A faint ache circles shoulders, missing the ladder's argumentative heft. But another warmth settles deeper. The knowledge that you bridged 2 nights and handed flame, intact, to its next steward. You close eyes, hearing in memory both the oil lamp's gentle roar and the gas main's breathy whisper, harmonizing into lullaby for a city that never quite sleeps. The darkness outside seems thinner for it, and when sleep claims you, it smells faintly of whale oil sweetened by coal tar, the scent of candled past folding kindly into future's pilot light. Dawn hovers somewhere beyond the chimney pots when the high-pitched ping of the new brass pressure whistle jerks you awake. It is no soft cough of a wick begging more oil, no half-hearted rattle of a windswept ladder rung. It is precise, metallic, dispassionate. The voice of a machine informing its minder that the city's gas main has dipped a notch below comfort. You lie for one heartbeat, weighing the distance between mattress and boots, and then sit up. The habit of guardianship is stronger than the mattress's petition. There will never again be an oil flame sputtering in the dark without your hand. Yet darkness still needs someone who can read its instruments. You tug on Inspector's coat, navy wool, silver piping, a pocket for the portable igniter where the snuffer bell once lived, and step into the corridor. Garret floorboards creak like old oars. Outside, the valve key you hung beside your retired wick shears glints in lantern light, tiny brass star. A thought ambushes you. For years I climbed to rescue the flame. Now the flame waits at street height, and I climb into my own head instead. The musing will have to wait. The whistle's pulse means pressure under river ward has dipped, and a row of new globes on Shipwright's Walk could gutter if the slump deepens. Staircase, courtyard, fog. The smell of coal tar hovers, sharper than whale oil yet almost familiar now, an older cousin of soot. You pass the depot. The shutters are closed. The old ladders sleep inside, their timber spines relieved of nightly duty. Rock still occupies the office, now with a brass pressure map pinned over the ledger shelves. Red pins marking leaks sealed by former lamplighters turned line guardians. You tip an invisible hat to the man who once weighed your oil flasks. He now weighs cubic feet and learns to respect numbers whispered by manometers instead of rungs counted by knees. Shipwright's Walk lies quiet save for gulls complaining about invisible dawn. The fog tastes of salt and last night's herring. Gas globes float above the pavement like captive moons, unervingly white, a color that seems to have evicted warmth rather than welcomed sight. But one globe glows faint compared with its neighbors. Pressure slump confirmed. You unlock the street valve box, bend, ear close to metal. The hiss is soft, more sigh than alarm, but enough to starve the pilot flame. You twist the regulator a half-turn, waiting for the gauge needle to wink back into the green. The globe brightens, the street readjusts its shadows, and a constable emerging from fog raises a hand in brief salute. The exchange is wordless. Guardianship works best when it does not wake the sleepers. A loaf seller trundles a handcart toward the market arch, lantern dangling from handle like an afterthought. She pauses under your repaired light, pats the globe's iron post. Keeps the rats guessing, she mutters. You nod, remembering the nights when only amber oil could convince rodents to stay in the gutter. Progress, like bread, must still satisfy hunger. Your pocket watch clicks 4:50. At 6 sharp, on the cathedral steps, the city will stage its final extinguishing, the ceremonial snuffing of the very last municipal oil lantern. In truth, there are still a few gallery fixtures inside the opera house and one stubborn bracket behind the mint. But ceremony requires neat edges where real life offers frayed fabric. The council has ordered a short speech, a photograph, and a symbolic handoff. Your guild's senior banner folded into a brass cylinder. The valve key passed to a boy not yet 20 who finished gas technician training in half the time it took you to learn a decent bishop's knot. You have been asked to perform the snuffing. Rox claimed the honor would feel poetic. First in and last out, he said, voice half proud, half apologetic. You said yes because refusing felt like dropping a ladder mid-climb. Yet even in agreement, a splinter lodged under the nail of your heart. You decide to walk the route one final time before the ceremony, lantern or no lantern, ladder or no ladder. Merchant's Arch greets you with a faint oil memory, baked into sandstone, impossible for coal tar to dislodge. A flick of your inspection lamp reveals soot trails you once scrubbed weekly. The new gas bracket stands a pace away, glass pristine, scentless but for the faint tang of iron valves. You touched the stonework, as though the city wall itself had been a colleague. We kept them safe, you think, and now they think safety can be purchased in pipes. Down bookbinders row a compositor already sets lead slugs for the evening edition. He squints under gaslight that slices fog like cold steel. You offer a mild warning about pressure shifts. He grunts, presses a copper token. A subscription chit for tomorrow's paper. Into your glove. Commerce still respects the messenger of brightness. Halfway to the river you find the shrine lamp, one of the last oil survivors. The small brass cage hangs before a weather-stained wooden saint whose eyes have seen every plague cart and every jubilee. Council neglected it from the ceremony list, perhaps considering it private. You still carry a thumb flask of spermaceti for such orphans. You refill, trim, strike flint. A modest flame wakes, amber and calm. For 4 hours, until the parish caretaker arrives, the old saint will not be alone. You note the entry, unauthorized oil usage, 1 ounce, in case someone audits compassion. A mainstream fact passes through your thoughts like a footnote searching its sentence. Liverpool kept altar lamps burning half a decade after street grid went full gas, citing spiritual optics. Historians still feud. Did piety delay efficiency? Or did oil's familiarity protect fragile ritual? Your hand on the saint's lamp votes for ritual, but the valve key in your pocket whispers efficiency. The city will likely side with whichever choice costs least in coin and in headlines. Flakes of pale light gather at the gutter's edge. Dawn is assembling its props. Time to cross the square. The cathedral facade emerges, gargoyles wearing frost masks. On the steps, the ceremony platform awaits. 3 chairs for dignitaries, 1 wooden box on which the last oil lamp has been perched, as if awaiting its own eulogy. It is freshly polished, wick trimmed to the breadth of a lullaby. Someone, probably Iona, left a sprig of dried lavender tied with silver thread around its handle. The scent bumps your ribs with memory of hornet summers. Spectators drift in, journalists, a cluster of apprentices in crisp technician coats. 2 elderly folk you once guided home after a masquerade. The bishop arrives, robes whispering. Mayor strides, speech rolled like ammunition. Haldenby, the gas engineer, offers a magnanimous nod. Victors can afford courtesy. Rock stands at side, guild badge gleaming though authority dimmed. He presses the snuffer bell, your first bell, into your palm. Carries every scrape earned on stone and iron. 1 more time, he says. The mayor extols progress. The bishop blesses brightness. Haldenby predicts a horizon where night holds no fear, only productivity. His words treat the darkness the way bankers treat an unpaid debt. You think of star-watching students, of lovers hiding from well-meant glare, of the cat that once prowled the quiet edge of your wick just to bask in hush. Night isn't debt. It's half the ledger. And then the mayor gestures. You step to the box. The flame inside the lamp steadies, recognizing you. You lower bell slowly, letting the audience see reflection of orange coil shrinking to coal, shrinking to nothing. A faint whump, then only blue glow from the gas standards, no amber anywhere. Applause breaks like distant surf. Flash powder ignites. The photograph steals its slice of history. When clapping fades, you hand the folded guild banner to the youngest technician. He cups it awkwardly, as if it might relight in his hands. You slip the brass valve key from your pocket and hook it to your belt. The city will not need you to climb, but it still needs someone to listen for pressure singing wrong notes. Ceremony disperses. Rock signs final requisition for ladder retirement. You sign receipt for new ear mufflers. Pneumatic hiss grows louder than seagulls some nights. The old depot smells of fresh paint. A sign over the door now reads municipal illumination and gas services. Yet the plank floor still remembers the weight of sloshing flasks. That evening you walk your new beat. No ladder, just gauge, wrench, notebook. Fog again. Gas diffuses into velvet haze above cobbles, enchanting and slightly sinister. Outside Chandler's court, a toddler points up and asks his mother if the sky is broken because stars are gone. You smile sadly. Brighter streets often dim the cosmos. An obscure astronomical paper you read last year blamed early gas grids for lost meteor counts. Scholars still debate whether progress blinded casual stargazers or simply coaxed them indoors earlier. Near midnight, a high mating call of the whistle, sharp, 3 quick, alerts you to a pressure spike by the dock warehouses. You jog, twisting valves in sequence until gauges calm. In the silence after metal clicks shut, you hear something that is not steam, not tar, not the hum of consortium pumps. It is your own breathing, and it sounds like someone striking flint in a cavern, coaxing a sliver of comfort. Guardianship, machine-bound or wick-bound, still demands lungs, ears, intent. Shift ends, you return home. Candle stub on the sill has guttered out. Instinct trims, relights, though no one requires it. Prism on the window catches first pearl of dawn, paints ragged rainbow across ceiling. You watch colors walk, red, orange, amber, green-tinted blue, and see in their overlap the memoir of 2 fuels sharing 1 century. Ledger open. Gas pressure corrected at 2348. Fog density note. Citizen query about starlight. You add a final line. Night remains half light, half listener. We now tend the listener's machinery. You blot ink, close book. Outside, the valve key rests on hook beside snuffer bell. 2 punctuation marks of different shapes, 1 sentence separated by decades. You curl into blanket. Muscle memory of ladder rungs twitches once, then relaxes, replaced by rhythm of breath and distant hiss of mains. Steady, unhurried, watchful. Lie back now. Let shoulders sink as though the old ladder has finally set you down on the softest cobble. Feel how the city's new heartbeat hums under the floorboards. No clatter of rungs, no pop of whale oil, just an even tone. A quiet inhalation that says, I am lit, I am safe. You may sleep. The glow beyond the curtains is paler than the honeyed lamps of before, yet it spills through silk in calm sheets, enough to fold nightmares into smaller shapes. Somewhere a regulator clicks, precise as a lullaby's metronome, and even that small clack agrees to rock you, not rouse you. Draw breath, a slow one. Perhaps it smells faintly of coal tar, perhaps a memory of lavender sneaks through from the relic you tucked away, but the scent is distant and thin, filtered by dawn. Exhale longer. Imagine each thought still circling like a moth finding no wick to orbit, drifting back into the darkness beyond the pane, leaving your room clear. The prism on the sill scatters one last shard of color onto your closed eyelids. Tiny, shifting, harmless. Let it linger like a signature on the letter of the night. Then watch even that color fade behind gentle gray when you blink again inside your dreams. From here until morning there is nothing for you to light, nothing for you to tighten. The streets, newly wired with their humming arteries, will carry the watch through the hours. You have earned the gift of surrender. Sink, then, into ease, knowing that every glow, amber past or cobalt present,